feature presentation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Untitled Movie Show for Wednesday, February 25th, 2015. I'm, of course, your host, the Dark Knight of the Retro Emblem channel, Mr. Miguel Leon, and y'all know my assistant, the Robin, to my Batman, Mr. Michael Burham.
Jimmy Chillikers! No, that's wrong.
What?
Holy rusted metal, Batman.
Not now, Fallout Boy.
As you heard in the background there, the Mr. Freeze to our Retro Emblem channel, Mr. Dave Wade.
Oh, you made me Arnie. I'm unhappy now.
Tell everyone there's a freeze coming.
Yeah.
And as you heard in the background, the Poison Ivy to my Bane, Miss Anina Kasky.
Good choice. Hello. I'm happy about Poison Ivy.
You just made Bane like 60s Batman.
One of the only few good things about the movie we're about to talk about. And yes, if you hadn't realized by the illusions, we're going to be continuing our Batman retrospective. Last week we talked about the first two Tim Burton films, the one theatrical animated film, which was Mask of the Phantasm, and we left off with Batman Forever, which was the first of the Schumacher double feature. I didn't mention this before when we talked about the Schumacher movie, but it is worth mentioning because it's going to lead into what we're going to be talking about today, which is the rest of the series, and we're starting off with a real bang here. So Batman...
Sorry, because you mentioned last week, I said it to you, I was seriously thinking of not showing up for this until after you talked about this movie.
I totally get it.
No. This is literally what this movie is about.
So, Batman Forever is actually, up until that point, it was actually the highest grossing Batman film up until that point.
Batman Forever is a good movie.
It is a good movie.
I still love to see the R-rated version that apparently exists out there, but it's a good movie. So we were all in high expectations of.
Yeah, it was kind of. I would call it a PG-13 Batman movie. It had everything that needed it. It scaled back a little bit from the Tim Burton movies, in terms of depressive moments and stuff. But it was still good. It was still something that you could sit there and say.
He was a good Batman.
Well, he was a good Bruce Wayne. I think he was a really good Bruce Wayne. Very suave, but he was an okay Batman. He wasn't amazing, but he was still someone that you could see as rather credible, and we could see the kind of form they had. It was kind of they kind of made Batman very Bond-esque in a sense. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. Yeah.
This was right around the time where GoldenEye, I think, had just been released, like the year after or the year of. 95 was GoldenEye, right? I think that was the same year as Batman Forever.
Can we do an Untitled movie show on Bond? At some point.
Ooh, that's a lot of research I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to go back.
No. We could just
that's
pick a
like
Bond.
10 podcasts at least.
No. You narrow it down. You pick a Bond.
I guess we could do different variations of Bond. I would have to go out and research because I'll be perfectly honest. I know of Bond, at least the previous Bonds, but I haven't really seen that many movies.
Well, we could just do Pierce Brosnan Bond, because it started so well with GoldenEye, and then everything else fell to shit.
Yeah,
well, the thing is, I think with Bond, if you're going to do Bond, you might as well do it properly and do every Bond movie, so you'd have to do you'd probably have to do 4 episodes on it. So you'd have to do one...
At least 4, maybe more.
That's one of the reasons why I still haven't done my Harry Potter retrospective, because I've got friends who would be perfect for that episode, but I just can't sit down and watch all 8 movies.
Sorry, if you do a Harry Potter retrospective, I'm just going to make stupid spell casting noises.
I'll let you know. That might have to be one where we limit the amount of people because, like I said, I've got a.
You might need to limit me because I'm just going to trash talk through the entire thing.
Probably,
and me because I refuse to watch a Harry Potter movie. I know I'm bad.
I've seen 2 out of them. I've seen just 2, so
you can just work the boards if anything, which I'll get into much later. But yeah. Batman Forever is a movie that I think, with slight tweaks, it could be a great movie. I
still really want to see this mythical fucking R-rated version. I really do. It's up there with the Richard Donner, which we got thanks to the internet. It's up there with the Richard Donner Superman 2 cut. I would love to see this so-called R-rated version of Batman.
What was the R-rated version?
There's a lot more reordered scenes. Scenes were put out of place in the theatrical cut. There's some scenes that were expanded upon. A lot of character moments.
And you get to see a little pinch of one scene in the U2 video.
Yeah, the breakout of Two-Face, which was in the YouTube video, very briefly. The ending, to an extent, I believe, is a bit different. Oh yeah, and we're going to talk about amazing songs in a bit, because that's one other thing I'll mention about this next film. So yeah, Batman Forever is underrated. It really doesn't deserve a lot of the flack it gets. However, because Batman Forever was so successful, the studios thought, well, we had Burton on there as producer, and we limited him a little bit, and we were able to make more money. What if we just got rid of him completely and took over the project ourselves? Yeah, we can make tons of money with that. And essentially from that, we got 1997's Batman and Robin. I can tell easily from just my remembrance of watching the VHS version that this movie was basically done by studio for studio, because if you watch the VHS version of it, every commercial on that VHS is a product based around Batman and Robin. You know, it's like you get a trailer and then you get a commercial for the toys. You get a trailer and then you get a commercial for the soundtrack. You get a trailer and you get, I forget what the other one was, but you could tell instantly this was a means of selling product. They were selling the brand of Batman, which was at its peak at this point, and not the actual character. And this movie is a disaster. It has... I'm going to say two good things about this before we dump on this movie.
The Batsuit was good. I like the Batsuit.
I was okay.
No, it was like fake abs.
Yeah,
it
was a bit too sculpted for my taste.
Yeah, but that's the original
Michael Keaton Batsuit had fake brand of Batman.
Yeah,
well, but this one was a little bit more much. This was more Roman gladiator armor than.
I do know that George Clooney makes a point when he was on Letterman, and he apologized for killing the Batman franchise, and then apologized for the fact that his Batsuit had nipples.
That's what I was going to say. Two words: bat nipples and bat ass. That's literally most of that.
The only thing I remember, my first flashback of this film is fake abs and nipples.
Yeah.
Last time I saw it, I was about 10.
Hold on. Let me get this out of the way first, and I'll throw it over to you guys in a bit. I'll say two good things about this movie. Number one, Poison Ivy. I have to give her credit's due.
Controversial.
You know what? I know people hate her for being campy and over the top, but I mean, I dug that temptress act she was doing. Let's just say that watching that at a young age
She looked like a commercial for selling flour paste.
Actually, she looked like a commercial for selling condoms because she was hot. You know, I have to admit, Uma Thurman.
She was wearing pajamas.
Dave, she was the best thing in that movie.
She was hot. Even as a woman, she was hot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of excited now.
She may have sculpted my viewpoint of you know, my viewpoint on women for a long time at that point. But yeah, we're not going to go into that. That's a good thing. The other good thing I'll say is the Smashing Pumpkins. The end is the beginning is the end. If you've never heard this song, and I'm not talking about the remake that they did for Watchmen. I'm talking about the original hard rock version. There's a reason why it won a Grammy for Best Hard Rock Song of that year, because it is a great, fantastic song. I do like the Watchmen version a little bit more due to the tone of it. I really think they really sold it in the trailer they used it for. But track this song down on YouTube. It is a really great song.
I would be up for just a podcast about Smashing Pumpkins. That's how much I love
you, Smashing Pumpkins. You are my music choice of the 90s.
And Billy Corben is a huge wrestling fan as well, which helps.
Yeah.
He's old like you, Berhad.
Yeah, maybe we haven't seen each other in this. I'm his Mexican equivalent.
And his head is like perfectly round. It's almost like a pumpkin head, not pumpkin head, pinhead kind of thing.
Yeah, my head is perfectly rounded as well. Thank you for noticing.
I always thought you could take Billy Corben's head and stick it in the ball polisher at a bowling alley, and
like Mr. Burns. Yeah, I remember that.
Excellent.
But yeah, those are the only two good things about that movie. The rest of the movie, I think James Rolfe said it best. It's a comedy. It's not even an action movie, a comic book movie.
Yeah.
It's a throwback to the 60s TV series.
Yeah.
But it's an unfunny comedy.
It is.
Really. I don't think it's not funny. As a kid, as in, what was I, 7 maybe when I first saw this?
Mm-hmm.
I like this film because it was weird characters in suits. And then when you grow to learn and have any taste of any kind, you go, my God, what's happening?
Oh yeah, I was the exact same way. When I watched this in theaters back in '97, I liked the movie, but I was like 8 or 9 at that point.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Let's step back a second. So, as younger, versions of yourself, you both enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
As when I was a child, now I can't
plank
stand it.
buckets from day one.
Nah, I'll admit, as a kid, I ate it up. It wasn't until years later that I had developed a taste for actual good material and realized the trash that Batman and Robin is.
Same here. I didn't have taste until I was a teenager.
And look, I'm gonna admit something right here. Batman and Robin was the first live-action Batman movie I saw. I didn't see Batman and Robin, Batman Forever in the theaters. I saw that after the fact.
Oh, Miguel, come to England. I'll take you under my wing, and we'll explore good movies.
Well,
yeah,
Miguel,
it was the first Batman movie I saw in the theaters.
I saw it from the first movie, hence the reason why I knew that this movie was trash. Especially when you had George Clooney go, "Stop!
The trailer was good.
Freeze!"
I was most let down because the trailer looked amazing, and then we got this.
You want to know what the sad part is about Mr. Freeze? And I researched this because we'll talk about casting in a second.
Going to take you to the cooler.
Do you know who was originally cast in that role, or who was originally considered? And when they cast Arnold in that role, they rewrote the character completely.
This is going to upset me, isn't it?
Daniel Day-Lewis or someone really
Patrick
good.
Stewart.
Oh my god!
That would have worked so much better.
They originally
the
wanted
movie
him.
may be shit, but if he was simply in it, it would have been amazing. Plus, when he turns on the weapon at the end to, fry. Sorry, people, spoilers. Well, actually, no spoilers allowed because this movie's shit. When he turns on the freeze weapon at the end, he could have said, "Engage."
Yeah, I mean, they had to rewrite the character completely when they cast Arnold to kind of fit his delivery style. And man, talk about
he doesn't have one.
Yeah, talk about gimmick casting. I mean, even as a kid, I knew enough of Mr. Freeze from the cartoons to know that was a mistake. Casting Arnold Schwarzenegger as a scientist, it didn't work in Junior. It doesn't work here. That was Joel Schumacher and Warner Brothers calling in some type of a favor, and I don't understand.
We know, but also it was studios and the director going, "We know best, we know best," and it's like, no, listen to the fans. You don't know best. This is a beloved franchise of them. No, we know best.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. Yeah, I agree with Dave on that one because it wasn't. I don't think it was a Schumacher decision. It was a studio decision. They probably had him under some kind of holding contract and said, "Hey, use Arnold." No, we don't want to use Arnold. No, use Arnold. But how about Arnold?
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
He's got to plug a gap between two movies.
That happens a lot
he's
more
popular.
than people imagine.
Him.
I mean, even
he's not the Governator yet. We need to use him.
Yeah, he's still got a few more hits under his belt. I believe he was just coming off of. Oh, that explains it, because I think he had just come off of Eraser, which was actually a really big hit for Warner Brothers, and they were like, "Let's keep riding this wave of success."
I actually really like that movie.
That's a good movie. I do really like Eraser.
Even though his gun at the end is basically the gun from Beverly Hills Cop 3, but...
Oh yeah, the railgun, the mobile railgun, yeah.
I think the reason I love that movie the most was when he had the railgun, my brain just went, "Thank you for putting the gun from Quake 2 into a movie."
Oh yeah, that was essentially the BFG. But yeah, that was gimmick casting. Speaking of casting, I really wish Clooney was in a better Batman movie because I do think George Clooney's a very charismatic actor, and I think he did well as Batman. It was just he happened to be Batman in the worst Batman movie.
Oh, I agree with you.
See, I think George Clooney is the perfect Bruce Wayne. But as Batman, I don't quite buy it.
Yeah, I agree with Anina.
Bruce Wayne because he
was brilliant Batman. He's a brilliant Bruce Wayne, but I thought he was a brilliant Batman. He just needs to work on his gruff voice.
No, he had the look.
Not for me because he's just, I don't know. You could just see that underneath the bat suit, he didn't have those muscles.
Neither did Keaton. That was the whole point of the bat suit.
He was probably originally. Enjoying life and eating good food, and then you just put on this suit and be like, and here's the abs.
Yeah, the Batman in this one was very one-dimensional. I mean, they tried to make a backstory of sorts, like a character conflict with Robin. But man, Chris O'Donnell, whatever goodwill he built with people in Batman Forever was flushed away in this movie because he is just insufferable.
Yeah, this killed his career.
No, I think
this movie actually killed his film career.
I can't stand Batgirl at all.
He actually went into hiding, didn't he, after this movie? He went into hiding and kind of locked
he
himself
didn't pop
away.
up again until ER. I think he popped up in ER late in the later years. I think that was when he popped up again. But yeah, it was a couple years before he did any sort of movies or
Yeah, and
TV.
he's like now he's like a stable in the NCIS series. He's doing NCIS LA or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's basically like this killed him, and a lot of it. One of the most insufferable things, and the thing that I think people hated the most, was the fact that it was the Bat credit card. Oh my fucking god. The Bat credit card. The most insufferable thing in movie history.
You get credit with an alternate
It was basically it was a product placement. It was American Express product placement. It was the WWE credit card. Never leave home without it. That's what. Never leave the Batcave without
WWE credit card.
The
You just said WWE credit
Did
card.
I say WWE? Sorry.
Yes,
you did.
I said
NXT and
crossing the streams there, Mr. Burnham.
I said the American Express.
Have we got a sponsor? You haven't told us about Burnham.
I have. The American Express credit card, he goes, never leave the Batcave without it. And it was so...
He should have winked at the camera when he said that. He should have winked at the camera.
No, but it was so insufferable. And when he did that, people just went... I remember I sat there and I was like, I'm done. I'm literally done with this movie. I'm going to take a shit. It was... and I was a kid.
That got a laugh in my theater.
Ironically, that's what they did when they made this movie. They took a shit.
That got a laugh in my theater, sadly. I don't know what...
Really?
Yeah, people laughed. That actually did... have people cracking up in the theater when I went to. I think I went to go. I was on vacation at the time. I think I was visiting Puerto Rico at the time when we went to go see this, which is funny because the entire movie had subtitles in Spanish because it was the English presentation of it. But yeah, I
no longer want to live in the States.
Yeah.
Based on that reaction.
Speaking of reactions, you talked about the fans being mad at that. I think the one reaction that I saw that was very, and I didn't realize this until I researched the character even more, was the use of Bane. People got upset.
Yeah, he became.
I love seeing him, but I just you fucking turned him into a. They vacuum flat packed him at the end. It was crap.
You know what?
Plus, he was just a fucking stooge who walked around just going, Hulk smash.
The thing about him as well was, Miguel, he was a very intelligent character, because if anyone knows how the Dark Knight basically fell to Bane, he was an intelligent...
I have the entire series, and it's one of my favourite Batman story arcs.
Yeah, Nightfall. And he basically broke Bruce Wayne's back. And he didn't do it because he's I'm the Hulk and I'm going to break your back. He was very intelligent about it. He's very well read. He's actually considered one of the equals to Batman because he can outthink Bruce Wayne. Right? The reason why he uses that drug is to give himself the physical power to his intellect. He's also...
Yes. Thank you for saying that. I've said this for years. He's like anti-Bruce Wayne. I mean, the opposite. But he knows that he's never put in the effort to be that physical prowess. So he goes, well, I got your brain. I can outthink you. This is a shortcut.
And that's the thing. And he's also Mexican. And the whole... Latino thing, the fact you never had...
Sorry, Mr. Brad, but the way you worded that makes it sound like it was bad.
No, but it's in comic books, everyone was very linear. You never really had a villain, and in a Bane sense, he's become more of an anti-hero now in his defense. You've never had someone...
Well, he's a good... Isn't he a good... Yeah, he's a good guy now,
well, he's got like a lead... No one ever took a lead character like that and had someone of colour, or of like, basically... differs from because most of them are white. If you look at Batman's roster of villains, the majority of them are white.
That's a good point.
And Bane was the only person who actually he did something that the Joker couldn't even do. He broke Batman's body. The Joker.
Not only that,
but in the build-up with the release of all the criminals from Arkham.
Yeah.
He broke his soul and his spirit before, and the breaking his back, because people are looking at it and going, oh, it was a summer event, it was crap. No, it was... I love it.
Well, and we should also point out, Bane was the only villain that I could think of that figured out who Batman was. He was smart enough to put the pieces together, which I can't think of many others.
Why he did it the way he did it, which is he released all these criminals from Arkham, made Batman fight them, exhausted him because he knew his weakness, the fact that he would never walk away or run away, exhausted him, and then fronted him at the end and said, like, I know you are, sorry, gonna destroy you.
Yeah, we'll get to Dark Knight Rises when we get to it. We're still talking about Batman and Robin. I mean, just the whole movie to me felt it felt just wrong. There was a lot wrong with the movie, and let's move on to somebody Anina brought up. Let's go on to Batgirl, which, yeah,
that's my comment.
A completely superfluous character.
Yeah.
Really, aside from when she pops up to fight Poison Ivy, she does nothing.
Can I highlight the fact that they rewrote her from Commissioner Gordon's daughter to Alfred Pennyworth's niece, who's been living in Britain and has not gotten any British dialect whatsoever. It's like, here's my niece from Britain. No. Hey everyone, how's it going? What?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah. That was the only reason they even signed her, because I think Warner Brothers was the one that produced Clueless, so they were like, well, she's popular again, she'll get the teeny boppers to come see this, let's cast her in the role. Completely superfluous. Not even for Cheesecake she was any good, because you'd think if they were going to bring her in for that, they would give her a much more fitting costume for that. The only costume in there that doesn't have nipples, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh my god, never noticed that before.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing.
It's like you couldn't even...
Damn it, Miguel, you just gave me a reason to watch that movie.
You couldn't even give us good fan service there, Warner Brothers.
Yeah, but the thing is about it as well, that they gave Alfred like this mystery illness. They didn't even freaking talk about the reason why. They never gave like Freeze all this backstory. They expected you to know it already. Again, it was basically the same thing. And this is a guy who had loads of lines. Like, Schwarzenegger was probably the person who spoke the most in the movie, and is the person who shouldn't have spoke the most in the movie. They gave him
he had the one-liners, didn't he? They just gave him all the cool things to say.
Yeah, and it just sounded really
bad.
That
was the point of that character.
And also the he had like this kind of thing where he over-explained himself every time. He had all this foreshadowing in terms of his dialogue all the fucking time. And
it was his dialogue. Most of the dialogue was exposition.
Exposition. Yeah, exactly. And he would always tell you his plan. He would always tell you his plot. He would always look into the fucking camera every time you're saying something. And you just
if you want a way to dismantle my evil genius, I've just explained it to you in triple fold.
Basically, everything about this screamed comic book, but not in a good way. It seemed comic book as in...
60s Batman. I stand by this statement. 60s Batman.
And
whereas...
DC went through that whole phase where they tried to mirror the comic to the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but without the enjoyable campness. This wasn't camp in a good way, this film.
Yeah,
it didn't have that, pow, kapoom things popping up.
I got told off in the cinema when I saw this movie for one line I'm about to tell you.
You said kapow. Was that
no? The bloke with the torch came down and put it on my aisle and just went, "Keep your voice down, or we're going to have to eject you." And it was the bit at the start. I'm not even going to say sorry spoilers because you don't need to.
We're
see
doing
this
you
movie.
A service, folks, by ruining this movie for you.
Was the bit at the start when they try and get the diamond and. They bang their feet together like the Wizard of Oz, and they've got skates.
Bat skates. Oh god.
Yeah. We'll ignore the fact that I'm like, right. So you've got this state-of-the-art suit that is prepared for everything, and you have fucking hockey skates in it. Piss off. That's bollocks. You would never have that. But when they do that, and then. They start skating around. The reason I got warned in the cinema was I actually shouted at the top of my voice, "Oh, fuck off! That's bollocks."
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
I can't really be mad at that because I can understand that. Like it's.
Go fucking skates. And after
sometimes
I got warned,
you just
I remember
can't
saying to
keep
my
it
girlfriend at the time, and she was like, "Dave, be quiet. You can't say that." And I just remember saying to her, "They got fucking skates in their bat suits." I mean, that's fucking bollocks.
Dave, losing relationships after bad movies.
Yeah, it's it's the bad kind of comic homage, because I said the same thing about the first Batman, and one of the reasons why I had issues with it was it felt like a comic book. It felt like a living comic book, but whereas Burton was able to do that well, and I said it before, he had as much issues with the studios, well, not as much as Schumacher did for Batman and Robin, but he kind of had to work within the system and try to make that work. This didn't. Schumacher just
Burton was
could not
visually,
make this
though.
work.
That's the thing. Burton was very visually. He would reflect the comics
There's
visuals.
a hockey game at the start of this movie. There's a hockey game at the start of this movie.
But that's what I'm saying. It's
this
like,
movie's shit.
it was Burton's style was more visual, whereas they were trying to play the comic subtext, but they stripped down all the visuals from it. They made it basically into a bad version of the Batman TV series. Like Anina said.
Yeah, it's not a very good-looking movie at all.
No.
Like, there's none of the...
Is that out on Blu-ray yet? I'm still waiting for the Blu-ray.
It's on Blu-ray.
You can buy it. Yeah,
you can buy the
it
pack.
is on Blu-ray. No, they actually have individual ones, because I remember when we were selling them at Walmart, when we sold the anthology set, they had individual, like, $5 versions of it, which I actually thought about getting the Batman Forever Blu-ray, but then I realized it wasn't the director's cut, so I opted
No,
out
I'm
of
talking
it.
about the TV show.
Oh, the TV show on Blu-ray? No, I don't believe the.
It's been green lit, and I've been waiting for this forever. And it's like, I want it. I slag off this movie, because it's camp like the '60s TV show, but I want the '60s TV show on Blu-ray so badly.
Oh, the '60s TV show. Okay, no. They. I don't think they've gotten it on Blu. I think they may have. Let me see, because I know for years there was arguments between studios over who got the rights to it, because I believe...
Yeah, oh, no, I remember that. There was the reason it never got, any form of DVD release whatsoever was there was so many arguments between the studios and between, DC and who owns the rights to this character, and we never got it. But I saw the announcement about a year ago, I guess now, saying that, we're going to get a Blu-ray complete box set of the '60s Batman and all 3 seasons, and I'm like, oh, I want it so badly.
It's out. It was released, at least in America, in November.
Oh, it's a Region fucking 2 thing then, isn't it?
I don't know if they've released it over in the UK and Europe yet, but I know here in America it's been released. But yeah, there was the whole issue with the rights between the production company and Warner Brothers and DC over who would get the money for it. But yeah, they settled that and whatnot. But yeah, I was talking about the if you were
Can you
talking about...
excuse me for a moment when I order this off Amazon?
Yeah, go ahead. I actually just looked up. It's gonna be almost $200 because it's the entire series on Blu-ray. So you might want to save up some money for that.
Actually, I'm not going to order it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a Kickstarter to help people buy it for me.
Start a Patreon account.
$200.
Fun
Really?
Dave's
Yeah.
Batman addiction.
Well, it's the entire series. It's all the
For
episodes.
$200.
Yeah.
You can buy the entire series of Friends for 25 quid in this country. I don't know why I'm talking with a high voice.
For the entire series on Blu-ray or on DVD, because DVD is marginally cheaper.
Can I buy it on DVD?
You might. I haven't checked the DVD listings. I only looked for the Blu-ray listings. You'd have to Google search that.
I'm not saying I'm cheap, but I'm cheap.
At least you're willing to pay for it. That's a step up. You're at least willing to contribute to Warner Brothers for making this DVD box set finally happen after years and years of legal mumbo jumbo.
Hey, Warner Brothers, can we please at least buy the same shit they get overseas in this country? Because I feel that you're making us a third world nation when it comes to DVD releases right now. It's not fair.
Yeah. I mean, at least it's not as bad as Australia. They get.
Oh, there's a whole fucking episode in that.
Yeah, it's a whole episode there. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about Batman and Robin that hasn't already been said by every reviewer out there, including the Nostalgia Critic and the Angry Video Game Nerd. Everybody has had something to say about Batman and Robin. There's a reason why it's listed on Wikipedia amongst the referenced worst films of all time. In fact, we actually did an episode about it at one point early on. We talked about it, and I think we mentioned Batman and Robin, but we more in depth.
I have one positive take from it, by the way.
What positive take do you have to take from it?
Where they united because this is before the DC series on TV right now, which is I do like the line when
Don't say it. I know what line you're talking about. I swear to God, don't give them this any credence because I know what line you're saying. But go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you say it.
Very good. This is why Superman works alone.
And the sad part is they were planning on doing a Superman movie at that time. It was Superman Lives. I think this may have.
Oh, with Nick Cage.
Yeah. I would not be shocked if they did this to link those two movies together. But that.
Do you know there's something else I have to say? Just a really pointless, stupid Dave memory, which is my girlfriend at the time was a nurse, and you know the bit when boy, I know you're going to give him his real name because I hate him. Boy Wonder got frozen, and then Batman melts him with his fucking laser gun. Do you know what my girlfriend, who was a nurse, said at the time?
They'd die.
No, she just went, that would never happen. Think about the massive amount of damage to his internal organs.
Yeah, because he'd been boiling him like soup.
Yeah.
Yeah, freeze them, boil.
Well, I have a round table question then. If we can all, and that was mine, which is I do like that line because it makes you realize or makes you think that there is a bigger, the DC universe exists. If all of you take one positive from this shit train of a bollocks movie.
I already said my positive. Smashing Pumpkins. The end is the beginning is the end. Great
song. That
doesn't
count. That's a song.
Okay, all right. Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy's performance. I can still go back to that and get some
watch
enjoyment
it again after this. And
Alfred had his own story arc in this. That's my positive.
Yeah, I will say that we failed to mention that Michael Gosh really.
That was going to be my positive. Is a great Alfred.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, Michael Caine took up the mantle for the Nolan movies, but to me, Michael Gosh will always be Alfred. He really was the perfect.
I agree.
He didn't overpower the character, which is the problem I'll get into when we get into the Nolan films. Is that it's almost like using a 357 to swat out a fly. You have a character.
He had the most heart, I think. Michael Gosh had the most heart, and you could feel like, there's actual real caring there.
But he also knew his role, I think, as well. He had he knew when to say his lines and when to step to the side. He did well in his role as Alfred. He was Alfred that we saw then. He's not the Alfred that we see now. And it's kind of going to be my rebuttal when we get to the new movies as well, Miguel.
Yeah, and to point out how much of a stalwart to the series that Michael Gosh was, when the WB Network had their short-lived series Birds of Prey, they actually got Michael Gosh to do the introduction for the show. So it shows you just how connected to the franchise, the live-action franchise he was, because he played Alfred through all the movies, going back to the... was he in the first Yeah, he was in the first Batman movie.
He was in all of them, all of them apart from the Nolan verse, of course.
Yeah. So let's move on to that. Well, before we move on to that, let's talk about the downtime between those two, because Batman and Robin was a disaster. Well, not so much a disaster.
It killed any studio even attempting a superhero movie.
Well, let's not forget that infamous interview, moment where George Clooney, a couple of years later, was on David Letterman, and he actually... he didn't. It wasn't for the studio or anything like that. But Letterman was talking to him, and about things in your career about you're not happy about, and he made a public apology about killing the Batman franchise.
Oh, Schumacher did the same thing.
It wasn't him,
that's
though.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, this is the thing. It was Warner Brothers, and Schumacher said this. He goes, "This wasn't my idea. They wanted to make it strip it even further down. They gave me guidelines, and because McDonald's was their sponsor, and they didn't like what I was doing with the previous movie and they threatened to pull out, they then decided to do this movie. They gave me orders on how to do it." He goes, "I wanted to do another movie called Batman Triumphant afterwards, which was going to be his kind of... He was going to be a more darker, more grittier Batman, and he was promised to make it. And even though this movie did make bank, it was critically and universally panned, which is the reason why they didn't make another one."
It didn't even make that much bank, because I think out of a $100 million budget, Batman Forever made $300 million. Out of a $140 million budget for Batman and Robin, I think this only made like $250 million, rounded up. So it actually made less money per capita for for DC, so it was considered a disappointment in a lot of ways. So yeah, they decided to opt out of their next sequel because there were plans on doing a third one, Batman Triumphant, which is interesting. Some of the ideas they had. It was going to be George Clooney returning as Batman, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, Alicia Silverstone would have been brought back, Michael Ghosh would come back as Alfred. Here's where it gets interesting: is the villains. It sometimes flip flopped. Initially, from what I've read, they were going to have the Mad Hatter and Man Bat. Mad Hatter would have been played by Martin Short, which I'm totally fine with.
That would have worked. That totally would have worked.
It would have worked. If you've ever seen Martin Short play Dark, he can play Dark, and he's got the mannerisms for it.
Oh, and perfectly honestly, for the Mad Hatter as well, because he's like his mouth, he can play creepy, I think would be the word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's very good for understated creepy, understated evil.
Yeah, and Man-Bat was actually going to be played... Let me go back to my computer because I just walked away for a second. He was going to be played by Mark Lynn Baker, who many of you would probably remember as the American character from Perfect Strangers. He was the guy that was opposite...
God, him?
Yeah, he would have been opposite. He was the guy that played opposite Bronson Pinchot in Perfect Strangers. He would have played the Man-Bat character. Eventually, the script that they settled on, in quotes, involved the Scarecrow, which they had several actors lined up as the Scarecrow, including Jeff Goldblum, Steve Buscemi, but it looked like...
Jeff Goldblum is the Scarecrow? Would have been fucking amazing!
Yeah, I think Jeff Goldblum would have done a great job as Scarecrow.
Now that's a very big pile of shit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, the one that probably would have gotten the nod had they actually continued, because I think this guy came closest to getting the role, Nicolas Cage.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, I'm kind of.
Why is it that this dude is shitting on everybody's comic book dreams?
You know that word you say to kids when they get too excited to calm them down?
Yeah.
In my household, it's Nicolas Cage.
Oh, you think that's bad? The other villain they had planned was Harley Quinn, and do you want to guess who they had planned to play?
Oh, this is gonna rape my fucking dreams, isn't it?
Pamela Anderson.
Nope.
Wild guess.
I would have lived with that as long as I get.
No. I don't think she could have played camp or crazy that well. Madonna.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was taking a swig of my beer, but now I'm angry.
You nearly came out of your nose. Yeah, and supposedly the way they had her written, she was actually going to be the Joker's daughter coming back for revenge against Batman, which...
Oh, well, that's not Harley Quinn, then.
Yeah,
that's not Harley Quinn.
That's the Joker's daughter. That's the Joker's daughter. The other woman who's obsessed.
There is literally a Joker's daughter character, I believe.
Yes, there
I
is.
can tell you who could have played Harley Quinn, even though she's already been cast technically in the Batman franchise at this point. But I can tell you then, because obviously, what is it, 97? It's a long time ago. Who would have made a brilliant Harley Quinn, ignoring the fact that she's already been in the Batman franchise? Michelle Pfeiffer.
And her name...
Too old at that point.
By the way, her name is Darla Dent. The one who basically became Joker's daughter, because she said she debuted in the Teen Titans. She said she was a daughter of Harvey Dent. Then became
Dave. Turn down your computer or something, because all I hear is the whooshing noise.
Right, it's it's the rule we say on Slamcast. It's when my fan kicks in. I'm gonna
as the supposed daughter of Harvey Dent, and then became the Joker's daughter. So it's a very, very weird type of situation.
I'm just gonna become your daughter.
Yeah, well, she actually injects his blood into her veins because she is just obsessed by him. It's creepy as hell. She actually gets into a fight with Harley Quinn recently, who said, I've been rid of him. I want him out. I want him out of my life. And you shouldn't get messed up in him because he's going to destroy you from inside. It's a really promising story. It really works. It was from the what was it called? The new Suicide Squad. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I would really like to see that storyline. I think that could be really interesting.
Well,
have two female characters sort of interacting with each other in a more deeper level.
The freakiest thing is she sews his face onto her face, like his dead skin is on her face.
Yeah, I think I've seen pictures of her. Yeah.
Oh, so she basically pulls a handsome Jack then.
Yeah, Saw.
Pretty much.
Anybody
Yeah.
who and no, not Saul, Repo. Has anybody seen Repo?
Yeah, Repo. Oh, I love Repo.
Yeah, Handsome Jack.
You mean Genetic Opera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the character then, Handsome Jack then.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the name.
that was one of the plans they had was Batman Triumphant. Apparently they had it planned even before the movie Batman and Robin came out. Then after the movie, Warner Brothers was like, let's not do that.
So they just flushed this franchise down the toilet.
But there were other plans to do it because after to the year 2000, they were planning and at some point on doing Batman movies. One of them actually, at one point, there were plans to do a Batman Beyond movie because at that time the series had actually hit really good with audiences. They wanted to kind of tap into that. But that never happened. Eventually, they settled on a pseudo adaptation of Year One because that was something that Schumacher said he wanted to desperately do. He desperately wanted to adapt the Year One storyline for DC. So but they weren't going to bring Schumacher back, obviously. And I believe there were several directors attached to that project. I think even Darren Aronofsky at one point was attached at one point to do it. But eventually, we got the film we did in 2005, which was Batman Begins, directed by Memento director Chris Nolan.
I love this movie, and one of the reasons why I love it is because it was a promising Batman movie. It was one of those where it took everything that the original Batman had and it distanced himself from it. It told a rather more broad story about Bruce Wayne, stuff that's actually been held in canon now, believe it or not, when they released the new 52 line. Christian Bale played an amazing Bruce Wayne. It talked about, how his parents were killed by the mob family, who he went to kind of to Ra's al Ghul to be trained because he was afraid of being, just a kind of like another. He was this rich boy who they kind of didn't want anything to do with him in a sense. They were like, well, he was trying to get the police. Gotham was corrupted. He couldn't do anything about it, and it was like his father's legacy was kind of tainted over this shit, and it's and the great thing about it is it kind of highlights all those things, but the one thing that I do find was the most annoying thing about this movie is his voice. He sounds like he needs cough syrup.
I don't. I got why they did that. I understand that, and I think probably the one moment that actually really sells why they did that isn't even in a Batman movie. Do you remember the 2011 Green Lantern? Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember the scene where what's his name? Why am I blanking on this actor? The guy that played Green Lantern.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, Ryan
There was that scene where he flies over to his girlfriend and she actually calls him out. She's like, he tries to like change his voice a little bit, but she's like, "I've known you for 20 years. You think covering up your cheekbones is gonna mask the fact that I could recognize you?" Like, I got that. I was like, okay, he's changing his voice because he knows if he talks normal, people are gonna immediately pick up on it. So I got that. I was fine with it. I didn't care that it was a little bit gravelly. And the scene where he's actually interrogating that guy off the side of the building, I got that. It made that voice make sense.
It's a different situation. I think when like I think the best Batman in terms of the transition from Bruce Wayne to Batman is the guy who plays in the Bruce Timm cartoons. What's his name? The actor who plays him, the voice actor.
Kevin Conroy.
He does a great one because he goes from like the kind of casual Bruce Wayne voice and then goes into the gravelly kind of Batman voice, and he does it so well that it doesn't sound like he needs syrup. It sounds natural.
Here's the problem though with that is that Christian Bale naturally already has a very masculine gravelly voice. You have to go, unless you're going to go the super high route or the super gravelly route, there's no, you gotta amp it up if you're Christian Bale because he already has a menacing voice to him. So I get why they did that. I wasn't as annoyed, I like I said, I understand why they did, but I'm perfectly fine. And by the way, we just lost Dave. I'm trying to bring him back. Dave, if you're out there, if you're listening in on YouTube, I'm trying, buddy. Get in touch with BT if you have to, but
restart your machine, Dave. Just restart your machine and then go back onto Skype. Hopefully that will sort you out. But yeah, no,
Hopefully.
I had that, and the thing is, I remember you're going to go into a kind of a bit about Michael Caine. I think his Alfred Pennyworth is really good because he has a father-son relationship going on with Bruce. He's a bit more kind of authoritative in a sense, and he has a bigger role to play because he's kind of the surrogate parent in terms of Bruce's life. Bruce is this kind of rogue, rebellious young man who's angry at the world because he's got everything. He has his parents' money, he has everything, but he doesn't have control of like Wayne Enterprises. He has nothing, and he's like considered just like as someone that's not a threat to the Carbone family, something like that. And he's very much.
Is it a Falcone?
Falcone, that's it. He's very much the guy who's scared. He wants to do something, but no one's doing anything. Every person that's supposed to be there to protect Gotham isn't doing their job. And it shows. It shows with the amount of corruption going on in the place. So he takes it into his own hands, and he builds himself up. You watch him become stronger by everything he does, by every action that he makes in this movie. And a lot of this is, and the great thing about it is, a lot of it is a Bruce Wayne movie. It's not much about Batman as it is about Bruce Wayne's journey. And we never got to see that in the other movies. We saw Bruce Wayne as kind of a side coating, and Batman was the main star. This time around, it was a different story. You got to see a lot more of who Bruce Wayne is, and a lot of character development come from his side. And it was great, and I think it did the job that it was supposed to in terms of making Batman to be, Batman.
I agree. It was it's a very well named film because it says Batman Begins. We see the whole origin story of how Batman becomes Batman, and that's really fascinating and done well. I agree with Miguel that the voice doesn't really bother me, and I see what they were doing. They were underlining the thing of he is trying to really protect his identity, whereas in some superhero films they hardly try to protect it at all. It's the whole Clark Kent, I've got glasses on so no one will know I'm actually Superman, and this way this is the most realistic of the films, and I like the realistic. I like that they went dark and they went realistic dark,
but the thing is,
sort of go the magical dark route that Tim Burton went, because I think only Tim Burton can do that well. I like the grittiness and the sort of realism this trilogy has.
Okay. Well, the thing is, though,
Scarecrow is great in this film. Why is he not in more of it?
He was in the other movies as well. He was literally the guy who played him was in the other two movies as Scarecrow, and I liked him in the third movie. I know,
but he's in for maybe 2 minutes in each film.
Yeah, that's the second movie. He shouldn't have been in it because I think his character lost momentum in the second movie.
He did. He was kind of.
What's his name? Is Rhys Ifans, something like that.
I have no idea. I think we may have lost Anina. Anina, you still there?
She'll be back in a sec. It's probably an internet connection. But it's like the guy who basically was in 28 Days Later.
Yeah. He was actually supposedly, the story is he was actually trying to audition for Batman's role.
Yep.
And then the Chris Nolan was like, "You're good. You're not the Batman we're looking for, but stick around. We've got another role that might be perfect." And I agree. I've always liked Cillian Murphy's look. I think the guy really has a kind of what?
Cillian Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy. I think he's got a very, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but almost sociopathic in a way where he's crazy,
a guy
but
that
he's
you
smart
could
at
look
the same
like
time.
He's playing a villain, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see if we can get everybody back into the group chat because we just lost everyone. Hold on, folks, live everybody. But it's funny. I really wish they'd have gotten more into the character of the Scarecrow, because that's probably the one issue I had with the movie is they started with potential for the Scarecrow and never really hit it. Like you've played Arkham Asylum, right?
Yeah.
maybe you can agree with me. The Scarecrow levels are probably some of the best levels in that game.
They're
That
very
whole the whole
psychedelic. It
subplot.
reminds me of the Psycho Mantis levels in Metal Gear.
Hmm.
Very much those.
But yeah,
it's
they very
very
much what could have been more than what they were for Batman Begins.
yeah. It's kind of one of those things. I know Nolan doesn't like using special effects. He's more practical effects type person. But he could have done a lot more with what he had in terms of the Scarecrow, and Cillian Murphy as a character actor, he works really well in terms of the characters that he plays. But saying that, Miguel, I think he would have been a good Batman. He's one of those where I think he could play very very much a kind of nice Bruce Wayne, a guy in a sense like kind of like what Bale does in American Psycho, very timid. Very kind of, hey, how's it going? And then the next minute turn into a complete and utter psychopath. In terms of what Batman is, he'd
be a good young. He's a young Batman.
Yeah,
A very young one. He's not a bit too young at the moment, but he could become Batman definitely.
yeah. Put it this way: if they ever want to do like for Gotham, if they ever want to jump to like Batman as a teen instead of him as a kid, I would not mind seeing Cillian Murphy play the Bruce Wayne character in there. I think he would make a great TV Batman, but I don't know. I don't know if he has enough of a presence to be a lead like that. I think he has enough of a presence as a villain, a great villain, but I don't know. I just think next to Christian Bale, I don't buy him as Batman.
Well, I disagree. There was a TV show called Peaky Blinders where he was the lead, and he can carry a lead role very comfortably, very well.
Yeah, but Miguel just said that he could do a lead in a TV show, but probably not in a movie. But I'm on your side though.
As well.
Yeah, I'm on your side though as well. I agree totally on your side. I think he could. I just think he should have been given the chance, but I think Bale was kind of a guy who was proven as a leading man, so they kind of went with him instead.
But yeah, Scarecrow should be in the film more.
Oh yeah, that was, like I said, that's one of the things that, having played Arkham Asylum and seeing how deep that game did with the Scarecrow, I really think they could have done more, but it seemed like he was kind of the secondary villain. I mean, obviously the villain was Ra's al Ghul, played by Liam Neeson. I don't know why I don't know why I'm blanking out on a lot of these people's names. I'm
doing that today as well, yeah.
But that's why we're here. I'll just be here yelling out names.
But saying that,
Liam
Neeson had a big year that year as well, because since Star Wars, he was doing everything. Since episode 1, he was in everything. You would see him in everything. I think that year as well, he was doing the A-Team, as well as Batman Begins,
No, that was... Yeah, no. Batman Begins was 2005. A-Team was 2009.
Ah, there we go.
So it would have been right after Dark Knight.
Yeah, he was doing a lot, and they were even thinking about having him return in the third movie, but instead went against it.
They went with Talia.
Yeah.
Holy fucking Windows update, Batman.
Welcome back, Dave.
What Dave said.
We were actually just in the middle of talking Batman Begins, because I was hoping you'd be back before we moved on to the Dark Knight.
I do apologize, and if I lived in a real Batcave, hopefully my Bat computer would just say, by the way, I'm going to turn everything off, and you can do fuck all about it. Have fun, sugar tits. Sorry.
Do people refer to you as sugar tits always in your head, or just
sugar tits is the greatest phrase in the world ever? Never, and true story. Never say it to a police officer; they don't like it.
No,
never say it to an actual woman as well. As my
I don't think
men out there.
I never say it to women. I only say it to men. That's the power of sugar tits.
No, but the thing is, apparently the police officers don't like you saying you're wrong to them.
Yeah.
And also, I oh my god, I've taken a positive for Mel Gibson's mental breakdown.
Yeah, I don't think it was the sugar tits thing that may have gotten him into hot water. I think it was following up with the whole Jews thing.
Yeah,
you killed Jesus.
The massive anti-Semitic thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like you were fine before that to an extent, and then you went a little bit overboard.
Yeah.
But
he didn't go overboard. He went so overboard.
Sorry about that. I do apologize. You got to understand that my computer literally does run on coal and donkey piss, and Windows hates me.
Yeah, before we get back to you guys, I just want to get Dave's thoughts on this. We were actually just talking about Batman Begins. We were talking about the casting: Christian Bale, Cillian Murphy, and Michael Caine. Before we throw it back to these guys, I do want to get your thoughts on Batman Begins. Give us your thoughts.
On paper, I remember when it was hyped and it was coming out. On paper, I hated it. Just went, this will never work. This is stupid casting. Then when I saw it, I just went, I never said that, people. This is brilliant, because it was just everything about that movie, casting wise, was just fantastic, on money, brilliant. Like, he was Alfred, he was Batman, and he was, the Scarecrow. It was brilliant. It's one of those moments when you want to build a time machine or a DeLorean, go back in time and slap yourself 2 years ago and just say, "You fucking idiot! What was wrong with you?"
I do have a question for you in that regard, Dave, because we mentioned this before. We talked about having played the game Arkham Asylum and seeing what they did with the Scarecrow there. Do you think they really undersold what could have been the Scarecrow in Batman Begins? Because I and Burkhand felt he really didn't get much of what he could have been. I mean, like I said,
agree. They could have made a film where Scarecrow is the villain. There was enough meat there just to have Scarecrow as the main villain. Yeah. And that would have been a great film. I love the psychological fucked upness he has and how he likes to fuck up people with the whole fear thing. I love that.
I love the fact that when you get to see Batman as a demon in it, by the way. I thought that was because of the weird misty spray that Scarecrow does. That was absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. Which, when he preyed back upon the Scarecrow. But I completely agree with you, Anina, but at the same time, I think they were... it comes back to the studio, that horrible word we like to say. I think they were walking on eggshells, and based upon where the franchise was before, they thought, right, we can't go. They did, in their defense, for Batman and Bruce Wayne, but we can't go full batshit. No, look at that. No pun intended. We can't go full batshit crazy because we're in a place right now where we're trying to reestablish the franchise and push it forward. So I like him in this movie. I think it's really well done. I would like to see him being full throttle and the main, villain and stuff. But yeah, I'm not defending them, but I think they were kind of, they
were scared.
Yeah, we've already fucked up. Hey, no pun intended. Scarecrow, scared. We've already fucked up this franchise once. Let's not do it again. So, but then at the same time, I'm kind of glad they walked on tiptoes, because we wouldn't have had this amazing trilogy of movies.
Yeah, this movie has a special place in my heart because it was one of the first movies I actually was able to see by myself. Right around the time where I was old enough to go see movies like this in the theaters, I had moved into an area that had a theater like within walking distance. So this was one of the first movies that I actually remember just going out to the movie theater alone and just watching a movie. And it's one of those things that it's a rose-colored thing. I get it, but I do love this movie. If I would have to compare it to the other ones, I'd probably say this is probably the most B-rated of it, in a sense, and the reason I say that is because it really is a light movie by comparison. I mean, it's very...
This would be my third movie if you could combine the franchises or the flows of movies. This would be my Tim Burton, even though it's not Burton. This would be right after Batman Returns to me.
I mean, it's got enough. The stakes are high enough in here to where you can actually care about the characters, and there's a lot of character development. But at the same time, it's nowhere near as heavy as 2 or 3, and it moves really well for a film like that. It's a very easy film to watch by comparison. This one I can go back to and watch a lot more as a popcorn movie more than I can the second or even the third one. So
can I bring up a really boring random fact?
Sure.
Yeah. You know the Tumbler?
Yeah.
The Tumbler is a real car that was made by Land Rover in this country.
I read that.
Yeah,
I read that somewhere.
that wasn't a prop car. That was a real car. The only prop thing about it was the jet that shot out backwards. It was a real worthy 4-wheel drive off-road vehicle, and I really like that. Because don't get me wrong, I love Tim Burton's Batmobile. That's my favorite Batmobile. But what I love about the Tumbler was it's basically, that would work in real life.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I loved about the Batman Begins on the Nolanverse to an extent. Unfortunately, I think they went a little bit overboard with the universe, but we've talked about that before.
Flying thing at the end. Yeah.
No, not that. I'll get more into this in a bit.
The overboard shit that they're doing at the moment, but I agree.
Yeah.
The Hans Zimmer soundtrack as well really excelled this movie. I think it gave it purpose. I remember the song that's stuck in my head from, like, you know, that ongoing tune, that kind of dun 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 dun, and it gave it that whole kind of high stakes mentality in a sense, because this soundtrack kind of carries on to the other movies as well at the same time, and really made it sound like a super powered movie. You've got amazing actors in it as well. Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon. Fuck me. You know,
Gary Oldman's my all-time favorite actor.
Gary Oldman doing anything. Gary Oldman doing anything is amazing.
Yeah, he does everything to kind of make
I have a category of actors who I would watch do their own ironing. Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
They have so much charisma. I would watch them doing mundane chores.
I've never heard anyone
changing the tire on his car.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say that, but that's true. Like Morgan Freeman as well in this movie, amazing. The one thing I do say is they don't in this. They kind of rectified it in the third movie, but they had this whole thing about not having Bruce Wayne as a smart man. He wasn't very scientific. He wasn't the guy who did kind of all the sciencey stuff. He was the guy who
he wasn't the all-round genius.
Yeah, he was the philanthropic guy.
But at the same time, they didn't make him stupid.
No, he was the philanthropy guy. He was the Wall Street guy. He was the guy who could manage a company, who could run things.
It was more realistic. They made it realistic that he is this savvy guy, but he has a team behind him to make him Batman.
And we don't,
he's truly Batman in that sense, because he understood his weaknesses as being a person who was out there to be the best person he could be. So it's like, well, I'm weak in these departments. Let's get these ninjas on board.
Yeah, but the one thing that we don't, that we kind of forget as well, a kind of a 90s staple, in a sense, was in this movie. A gentleman who played one of the kind of, he was a villain, but he was kind of a side villain. And that was Rutger Hauer.
Yes.
Was he Falcone? Who was
no,
he?
he was
the guy who tried to over the board of directors.
Yeah, he's the one who tried to favor he tried to have Wayne Enterprises sold off, and then give Bruce some chump change, and then you have it in the end. He gets overturned because he even goes to kind of the Scarecrow.
He was the Christopher Walken of this movie.
Yeah, he was the guy but he done it better than Christopher Walken, I believe, in Batman Returns. He done it better because he never showed. You knew what he was planning, but he never showed his true colors. He was kind of very Obadiah Stane in that sense. You know,
he was bubbling underneath the surface.
Yes.
Yeah, and going back to what I was going to say, one of the things that I really respected about this movie is going back to what you said about the fact that the Tumbler's a real car. They grounded it in enough reality to where you could kind of relate to it in a sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Tim Burton universe where you could not see yourself in this universe. It was its own thing.
Yeah, you related a lot more to Bruce's journey as well. You didn't have to kind of you didn't have to kind of escape from reality. This could have been done now.
Yeah, like I said, whereas I think that works in Batman, it's not going to work, in my opinion, in some of the other franchises they're going to try that style with for the DC universe, and that's what I was going to go back. In some of those...
Who would have thought that Chicago would have made such great Gotham?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially when you
Can I point a really stupid nerdgasm?
Go ahead.
Anal fact that I'm proud about out right now. I lived in Chicago for 6 months at this point, and the bloke in the office who was my counterpart when we did computer shit actually took me on a sightseeing tour of all the sites of the Batman movie. It was after it was out, by the way. And you know that bit? That's where the tumbler jumps off the fucking roof and lands on the floor. You know that bit? And it was just me being nerdgasm. And then being a complete nerdgasm bloke, I just went, so where's the fountain from Mad with Children? And then he took me there. But yeah, I just think that actually ties into something I want to say, which is as Gotham, Chicago works brilliantly, and I love the fact that they made this elaborate set for Gotham, you know, in the first movie. But I kind of like the fact that it was a real city. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just it's a city. You know, Gotham's not this fucking great palace of wonderfulness, even though it's
it wasn't this modern city still stuck in 1930s Art Deco.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good point. It was that's the point I'm trying to get across. It was basically Gotham is any other city on the planet, you know, or urban, you know, a gathering point for people, and I love that. I love that about it, and also it did make an amazing backdrop for that movie.
Yeah, in fact, honestly, there are only two things about the movie that I think falter, in my opinion. Number one, Katie Holmes. I was not a big fan of her in this movie.
I thought she was fine. Just like I did not like the recasting, if I'm honest.
The thing is, I think that in terms of her character was kind of a MacGuffin.
Was underwritten.
Yeah.
Very underwritten, but she wasn't a powerful female at all. She was very she was used there so someone could kidnap her. You could tell.
Yeah. Hi, Batman. I'm your love interest. But
I'm your love interest for this week. Do you
I've
mind?
Just been kidnapped.
Oh, I've been kidnapped. Can you choose between me and saving everyone else? No. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give her credit for this. At least it wasn't as obvious as Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever. Like at least Katie Holmes could have been a real person.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't basically a two-dimensional character built just for this movie. I just think that her story arc and her character in this was just kind of weak. I don't think it was bad.
I have to say something quickly going back to Batman
Forever.
Forever, which is, I know we're on this movie, but I have to say that whole bit when she fucking takes the fucking bat sign in someone's Batman is a pager. Basically, when she's dressed in a nightie, and I'm like, I really wish Batman said, "You're wasting police time. You know that's a criminal offense, don't you?" Because that's what she did.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is Batman Forever we're talking about, so I mean, there's not much you can say about that. But the other bad thing that I will admit in rewatching it, I will say, the fight choreography is really weak. It's very quick cutty. You can barely tell what's going on. Yes. I think Nolan was just starting to get into action, because up until this point, I don't think he had done action movies.
No, he's a storyteller. He's very much
fight choreography.
Yeah.
When they do the whole, which is, you know, they've choreographed the scene. I don't doubt that these people have learned how to fight each other. But then they go, we're just going to shove the camera in really close and have a load of jump cuts.
Yeah, it was.
And it's like, it's a Batman movie. I want to see him fuck people up.
The thing is, he does a lot of well-written characters. He can tell a story, and he can tell a story well. He was getting into his kind of grind with the action scenes. And the fight choreography for this type of movie wasn't that bad. It wasn't noticeable, in a sense. But it was.
You know what the worst bit about it is? When he's training at the start of the movie, it's actually better than it is when he's Batman.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you think about it, this is like Batman Year One. Right, he's only getting into the role, so it's not. Again, it's more kind of the way that it would happen in real life. He wouldn't be fucking huge at martial arts and beating everyone's ass. He would be finding some problems and finding his feet, and that's exactly what this movie was. It was literally Batman finding his feet. Hence the reason I said it's a Bruce Wayne movie, because it's Bruce Wayne becoming Batman.
And it does that better in this movie than Man of Steel did with Superman.
Oh God, Man!
Let's not get into that.
We've had that conversation already.
We've dedicated more than enough time to Man of Steel.
Yes.
But I will say this movie did the origin story for its character a lot better.
But that's the thing. It told it a lot differently. And that's the great thing about it. It made it work. It made it work really, really well.
You believed that, okay, you did this, I believe this story, which for a superhero film is quite can be quite hard.
And it also
at least for me.
It did a lot of undoing from the previous movie as well. It gave us faith in Batman, which is something that usually you don't get to see, because with a lot of these kind of movies, it fucks things up. You know, they tend to go, let's do what we want. And Nolan, you could tell the studio just gave it to Nolan and said, tell a believable Batman story. And that's what he did.
Yeah, I really do like this film. But to me, like I said, it's one of those films that I can get into a lot more easily in terms of a popcorn movie, because it does feel a lot more brisk, and it has its deep moments, but it's not so deep that it's impenetrable. Which leads us into our next film, which is 2008's The Dark Knight, which had a bit of backing behind it. You know, some people were talking about this. I remember. You remember that time? I mean, there were a few people just kind of saying stuff here and there about Batman, The Dark Knight. There wasn't much said. I mean, I'm just saying. You know, the marketing was very weak in the movie. You know. Am I facetious enough on this one, Burhan? Do you think I could take the piss out of it a little bit more?
What, The Dark Knight?
The marketing for The Dark Knight. Because if you guys hadn't noticed, this movie was marketed everywhere.
God. Everyone saw the posters for 6 months beforehand.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It was like the Matrix sequels. It's like poster being slapped in the face with a poster every time we go on the underground.
You also saw it in your Happy Meals and in your toy aisles. They literally...
Do you know the main thing I took from the trailer for this movie? You know, when you go to, you know, the cinema and you watch movies, well, it's your podcast, so you know that. But the main thing I took from this movie was I saw the trailer for The Watchmen and just went, oh, right, they've made The Watchmen. Good to know. Anyway, come on, Batman. But I'm not going to lie, my heart lies with The Watchmen.
The thing
Watchmen, we've said it before, Watchmen's not a bad movie, but yeah, this one... I wasn't old enough to have been around when the marketing for the first Batman came out, but I remember hearing stories about it being huge. I gotta think this was at least somewhat more so, because this thing was everywhere, especially after the tragedy that happened before the movie came out, which we'll get into shortly. I don't want to talk about it yet. I will say, before we get into that and talk about The Dark Knight, I love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorite comic book movies. There's a reason why I've only seen it once, is because it's one of those movies that I loved so much.
All-time favorite movie, you've only seen it once.
Well, no, here's the problem. Here's why I haven't only seen it once, and it was the theaters, because, and you know this being a movie file, there are just certain experiences watching a movie that you don't want to mess up, and I had such a great experience watching this movie. This movie just, it hit me so hard watching this movie that I've not gone and rewatched it again, because I don't want to ruin that feeling I had when I first saw this movie.
You know what, Miguel? Ditto, because I've done the same exact thing. It's one of those where I was so blown away by it that the movie itself just made a huge impact. I went to see it with my older brother. We went to the cinema together to watch this because we wanted to experience it together. Because like me and him, we watched Batman Begins in the cinema. We want to watch this one. We didn't watch the third one in the cinema, which was quite sad. But I didn't like the look of it. The second movie, The Dark Knight, I remember watching it and I was blown away by Heath Ledger's acting. I was blown away by how the deck was the deck was stacked against Batman, and I was blown away with him trying to deal with his issues, being like he was juggling his own life and the life of, like, you know, the Dark Knight at the same time, trying to balance everything. And again, I think Nolan told.
But it was a perfect balance as well, though.
Yeah,
it was a perfect balance.
He told an amazing story.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he told an amazing story, and we got to see a lot more Batman this time. So, as Dave said, you got to see a balance of both characters rather than just see one of them. Plus, we got to flesh out the Joker. You know, I loved the Joker's story in this because you didn't know who he was. You didn't know what he was doing. You didn't know what his purpose was. Yeah, and you know, they did that amazing story with Harvey Dent as well, which I felt it needed a bit more fleshing out, but it worked.
They have that really, really dark moment, which I love.
Where he loses his mind.
It almost reminds me like Thing, of the Thing movies, where the Joker has managed to take someone and convince them, and he's put them in prison with a weapon in them.
Yeah, it's like watching him. It's blaming him for everything, you know. And that's the big thing about it. It does.
The only thing I will say that's bad about this movie is the fight scenes at the end. Even though when Batman's dropping, sorry people, spoilers, but hey, it's Batman retrospective, so piss off. People drop from the roofs at the end, Batman drops from the roof at the end, and he's like killing all these people or fighting all these people in the room. It comes back to what Miguel just said on the previous movie, which is you really could have used better fight choreography right there.
See, for me, first of this trilogy, I was dragged to see the first one. I was like, oh god, another
literally dragged.
Yes, by my then boyfriend. We are seeing this film, and I was like, I don't wanna. But we went, and I went, oh, actually, I enjoyed that. Second one, I was going, I can't wait to see this film. And it is the best out of the trilogy. It is... I can't see anything wrong with it.
I agree with you, Nina.
I agree. There's nothing wrong with that film. No negative aspect of that
I think
film.
the only negative I can put on this...
Recasting bothered me.
Yeah.
Because everything else is so realistic and so... He's gone for realism, which I like. And then suddenly the woman looks completely different. So that took a bit of...
I prefer that.
Recalculating of like, okay, she looks completely different, and she is completely different from the first film, but okay. Let's go over that and watch the film.
Can I say something really sad and stupid and superficial? Mm-hmm. Do you want to know why I preferred her? To
you find her more attractive?
No, it's more superficial than that. The reason I preferred her was this was around about the time that Tom Cruise jumped the couch.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Katie.
So my brain just went, I'll take you over her because she's batshit crazy, no pun intended, even though now you're normal again.
No, apparently she had a dispute over pay, which was the reason why they didn't recasted her, because she wanted more pay to be in it. She wanted a bigger role. And they were like, nope.
I thought it was because Tom Cruise said you have to pay your entire, movie paycheck to Church of Scientology.
No. It was more. It was a dispute over pay. I think he was giving her advice, which was kind of the worst thing about it. Because no offense, Tom Cruise.
It, by the way, I actually preferred.
I didn't want the character in there at all. To tell you the truth, I wanted her to be like gone. Because once they kind of ended things on the first one, I thought, okay, that's done. Yeah. I didn't want her...
Hold on, knowing where they went, though, with that character, I was perfectly fine. And that's... Just not to cut you off, but you brought this up. I gotta say, I was surprised when they... Spoiler alert. Sorry, I can't hit the notes as high as you can.
I'll tell you what, I'll record it, and you can use it as a soundbite.
There we go.
When they actually do end up killing her character, I was shocked. Like, I honestly, having watched movies like that, I'm sitting there going, okay, when is he going to swoop in at the last minute to save her? Okay, when is it going to happen? When is it going to... Boom! Oh, wow, that just happened.
It seemed a lot more tragic as well, because the loss seemed a lot more tragic.
And that I want to say also is probably one of the things that I really held on to more than anything else is... The Harvey Dent story in this was beautiful. Yeah. It was one of...
Yes.
How is he not in every single film? Why is that actor not in every single film?
He is. He was in Last in I, Frankenstein, and that was a terrible movie. I watched it, and I really... He was
cast in... for smoking. That was very good.
He was cast in The Core, which is where I first saw him.
About that shit movie, Burhan. I completely brainwashed myself from...
Yeah, the thing is, he's ever since though, like he's made some great roles, and he's a great actor. His agent needs to be fired because they're casting him in so many shit movies that he's kind of...
He's underused.
He wants to lead
from this American hero to Two-Face. I believed it. That is a very hard jump to make as an actor.
I agree, and I think
so completely. He was fabulous.
My issue was,
and
I think
he's overshadowed by.
This movie was the simple fact through the first third of the movie. He was, he was a good guy. He was completely invested 100% in trying to make Gotham better. He knew it was, an easy fix, but he was there. And then when he fell from grace and what happened to him, it was plausible. And you actually, this sounds terrible, you were still actually on his side.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is,
you understood why he felt this way, and you went, "Yep, I would probably feel that way too."
It's almost in a sense. I
love the way he lost his face. By the way, this is going to make me sound good.
Me too. That was beautifully done.
I agree.
It almost in a sense. Hold on, let me just say this. Okay. It's almost in a sense how it was almost like they were taking bits and pieces from The Killing Joke in a sense.
Yeah.
Instead of Commissioner Gordon, though, it was Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
The Joker's whole thing was he wanted to prove that he could turn anybody into him, even the most stalwart, white knight type, with just one bad incident. Like that's all it takes is the right incident, and you could turn anybody into the Joker.
You see, though, my feeling behind that, though, Miguel, is I think they should have left it at that. When he did that, I think they should have explored that a little bit, but then have it spin off to the third movie. I think Dent would have been great as a Two-Face would have been great as a centralized character.
Yeah, Dent should have been carried over.
I think it would have been a nice little setup, but they what they did was they gave us 3 hours of this movie to kind of play out his story arc, where they could have gave us 2 hours of this movie, ended that story with the Joker there, and then have Dent move over to the third movie and have it brought out a bit. I think in terms of time, and I think it was more studio pressure that forced Nolan to have 2 characters in there, because I don't think he wanted that, in my opinion. You could tell that the Joker had priority over Dent's character.
They still made it work. I mean, his character was beautifully done, and it was a great, believable story arc. And I give Nolan credit for having so many different story arcs in this movie and making it all work, because as we'll see in my opinion, the third movie, if you have too many things going on at the same time, it doesn't make for a big feeling universe. It makes for a very cluttered universe. You can only go so far with putting
it's a cliche, but too many cooks spoil the brew.
Yeah, essentially. So I love the fact that they were able to do that, and they really fleshed out Eckhart's character, and I do think Aaron Eckhart needs a better agent, because between the Core and I Frankenstein, he's had a few misses.
My God!
He could be Nathan Fillion's stunt double.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Yes and no. I think Nathan Fillion's kind of got a bit more rotund now.
He's a much softer. He's a much softer Nathan Fillion.
Boring random.
He's like Hal Jordan.
Hal
Jordan, if he had too many cookies,
Yeah.
He was on Castle. He didn't have to, be.
Dr. Devil sing along last night, so don't you talk bad about Nathan Fillion.
Oh, I love Dr. Horrible.
I love Nathan Fillion, but I'm just saying he's kind of rotund.
He's cuddly. Leave him alone. He's cuddly.
Okay, he's cuddly.
Boring random fact. Same girl I was dating at the time when we saw this movie, and the bit when you see Harvey Dent's face with like amazing effects, when you can see like the tendons of the muscle inside his burned out face. Same girlfriend who was a nurse, and I'm like, thank you for ruining the moment. She just went, it's not physically possible because his tendons would harden because the air is exposed to it, so he basically have clay on the right hand side of his face right now, and his jaw would drop off. I'm like, thanks for that. We're watching Batman. Awesome.
I see a bit of myself in your ex-girlfriend. I'm always like, well, actually.
Yeah, but I would be fun. Like, shut up! It's a comic book movie. Just like don't ruin this for me.
Ironically, and no, I'm not adding this as a like made up shit. Ironically, the bloke behind us said, "Hey, in front, shut up."
Yeah, I would have been like, come on, like you're here to watch a movie, not to debunk facts, I have a friend of mine.
One of you
But
motherfuckers
it's
takes out a mobile
fun.
phone, I'll kill you.
No, I have a friend of mine who does that. She will sit there and we'll talk. If she doesn't like a movie, she'll tell me the reasons why she doesn't like it, or she'll sit down and talk like when we watch the movie. So I lay down. I lay down a rule. I lay down a rule to her and said,
discussion at the end.
Yeah, that's why I laid down the rule of. I went, do not talk to me if you've got something to say. If it's a shit movie, we can sit down and talk all we want. If it's a great movie, right? Let's just watch it. And she did. To her credit, Birdman, she sat down and she watched the entire movie without saying one word. I was almost
so glad.
I thought that she had a stroke basically because she just sat there and watched it. I was like, she must hate this movie. But then afterwards, we had such a great duologue about it. You know, we sat down, we talked, and she kind of went over that. But that's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand like I do it if it's a bad movie. As I said, if we're expecting to sit down and talk about it, it's fine. But if it's a great movie, if I know it's going to be a great movie, I just want silence, you know, until it's done, because I want to watch. You want to immerse yourself in it. You don't want someone sitting there going, "That's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong," because it takes you out the movie.
Easy, love. I paid £15 for this. I'm watching it on IMAX.
Yeah, and it's
the worst thing. The worst thing is watching a film with someone who's already seen it, and they go, "Oh, funny bits coming up."
Yeah.
Now. Like,
I want to
I'm
punch.
not gonna laugh now because you said it's funny.
Yeah.
Like it's some inside, like God is slapping her on the back and saying, "Well done there." It's some inside rule.
Yeah, Dave, look, she's a keeper.
Yeah, every time a scene is about to happen, they go, "Oh, this bit's amazing." You know what's going to happen? He's going to rip his face off.
I would literally, I would, for me, I would basically just break up with her after that bit. Just sit there and go, "Oh, done that. Oh, that." I would just be like, "Yeah, we're done." What? We got to see other people. Why? Because I can't do this. Not anymore. Yeah, you have a nice life. I hope you're going to make someone very happy, but not
I would
me.
have, but she was a nurse, so she had access to nursey things. Sorry.
You just liked her because of the outfit.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah,
wore it though, selfish cow.
But yeah, the Dark Knight. I agree. I felt that. My opinion, I think the only negative I could take away from that movie was it was too long. It was a struggle to watch.
Disagree. For me, it wasn't a struggle for a second.
It was a struggle to watch 3 hours of that, because it was like when you knew it had a perfect ending. There was a point where you looked at it and thought, okay, that could have been wrapped up and that's done. And then they just carried it on. And it was great. I loved watching it, but it was just one of those things where I sat there and I was like, okay, I need to pee.
No. See, I was going to say I agree, which is I'm not chastising the movie, but possibly I am chastising the movie because of my small bladder. So that's not his fault.
Yeah.
Although it has one of my favourite scenes or cinematic scenes in a movie ever, which is when Batman has to kidnap the banker. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Everything it's almost got a whiff of James Bond.
Yeah, that was it's at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the scene that won me over, was that whole setup. I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm buying this. I was with it for all 3 hours. I gotta agree with Anina. I think the movie moved fast enough, and it had enough character development and plot elements that it didn't feel. It wasn't like Lord of the Rings 3, where it kept ending for 9 times towards the end. It kept having a nice pacing.
Don't you dare talk ill about that movie.
I'm not, but I'm just saying I was with it through the whole movie. I do love the movie, and I guess we have to talk about the elephant in the room. What'd you guys think of Heath Ledger? I'll throw it to Burhan first.
I loved it.
I think everyone will feel the same way.
Yeah,
it was surprised if any.
Yeah, it was one of those where I'm a huge fan of Nicholson's role as the Joker. When I saw this, I thought the guy from Brokeback Mountain is going to be doing this, and also the guy from was it 10 Things I Hate About You is going to be doing this. And then I watched him; he did a whole different Joker. You know, he was a different Joker, a very different Joker, and the one thing that really stood out about him was, as Nicholson was kind of ha-ha psychopath, you know, he's kind of very... it's kind of like how Christian Bale was in American Psycho. You had to differentiate. Ledger was more quiet, psychotic psychopath. You know, he was just like... the lovely bit when you had Michael J. White sitting there with all the other mobsters talking about the Batman, and he goes, "Do you want to see a magic trick?" And you're just like, "What the
Love that,
fuck?"
dude.
And he's got...
By the way, Byrne, when you go to Canada to film Silent Hill, do that as your accent.
Well, do you want to see a magic trick? He plays it so well. It's so down. His tones are so desolate, and the way that his character is, he's basically creepy. He has that quiet awe of creepiness to him, and the little bits that he did that added to it, because Nolan gave him a bit of free reign in doing the monologues. You know, the bit where he's talking to the camera. You know, you see a lot of it in pop culture now. You see like YouTubers, celebrities, hell, in pro wrestling. You know, you had the bit with the shield and the camera and stuff. A lot of that was taken off of the Joker from The Dark Knight, and you can tell. And Ledger he created something new with the character. He made a different kind of psychopath, and his Joker, I think, and feel, is so different in comparison to Hamill's Joker, in comparison to Nicholson's Joker.
Who's still my favourites, by the way.
Yeah, no, but all three of them I think have amazing qualities to them for different reasons. But I think Ledger gave us a Joker for the millennials. He gave us a Joker that stood out, not just by appearance, but no one knew what the fuck this guy was, it was about. He had no fingerprints. No one knew where he came from. It was great, and it was a great story that they could have built on at a later point.
What bit absolutely won me over was when he says, do you want to know where I got these scars?
Yeah.
When he gives two different scenarios, I just went, my blood ran cold, and I went, oh my god. Because you believe both. You go,
do you know
oh my god, he had an
got
abusive
these
father.
Scars?
I got these scars.
Oh my god, he had an abusive father. Oh my god, mob. And then you go, oh my god, that moment, I was already buying it. But when that happened, when there were two different outcomes and you had no idea which one was the truth, probably even wasn't the truth, that was the moment where I went, I love this. He was terrifying. He was the first one to be actually terrifying.
My ex-girlfriend, I find her no longer attractive based on the fact that he was a better nurse than her.
Do you know what made me even, and then that's the point as well, Nina. I agree with you wholeheartedly. He made the Joker real. And that's the thing that creeps you out. You're like, this person could be a serial killer in my hometown.
Yeah. You're stuck in a room with him, you are terrified for your life.
You're waiting for Batman.
You will die in the next... you will die soon, and you will die soon, but you don't know how.
Yeah, you never knew his agenda. You didn't know what he was about. You never knew anything about him. And that's what kind of made him even more creepy, was because you didn't know what he would do next.
Yeah, you didn't. He had that completely anything can happen any second quality. And I like all the Jokers. Joker's always been a great character, and he's been done so well. And I like the fact every actor's chosen their own way of doing it. Because if you were to mimic what the other actor did, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
that's iconic role, you can't do what the other guy did. You have to figure it out yourself.
That's kind of the reason why
he got it. He ran with it. He knew it.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure when he made or he chose the role, he thought like, I can't be Nicholson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
He just ran with this.
Do you know what the great thing about it as well? He made the character his own, and you don't see actors do that nowadays. That's another thing, and I was talking to Anina about this recently. You never see actors who can make... It's like, for me, it's better than sex. I literally mean that. It's better than sex to watch an actor who can make a role their own and who understands the identity thing, the character building, who knows how to build a character up from the ground. It's literally orgasmic, and when I watched him perform, I was just in awe, and I literally sat there and I said to myself, this is an actor that will go all the way.
Well, I felt the same way about Harvey Dent, but obviously the sad thing about Two-Face character was that he was overshadowed.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I love the two of them both blew my mind.
But that's the
in
thing.
Different ways.
That's the thing. That's why I really believe that he needed more of a build up to the third movie. It would have worked a lot better. Instead of extending this movie by 1 hour. I think it would have been a lot bigger for Harvey Dent. The other thing I was going to say, Miguel, that I had an issue with about this movie is Cillian Murphy, where they arrest the Scarecrow, and he's so underplayed in this movie.
Oh, at the start.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. He's just like, oh look, Scarecrow, and then it's forgotten.
Yeah, it's like Scarecrow again. Hasn't he been Batman's whipping boy enough? It was just kind of
pretty much the whole scene. He gets stopped by Batman with his when he realizes his suit's too big and shit, and it's almost like, all right, Batman, yeah, you got me. All right, yeah, I'll go away now. Hi, I'm just a cameo. Have fun with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. He didn't need to be there. There was no reason, and it kind of downplayed his role in the first movie. It made the Scarecrow less threatening.
Yeah, he makes him less scary. Yeah, he's not scary if he's just popping in and out of.
He's almost like the comic farce, or the stupid villain you catch at the start of the movie simply because he's crap. And it was like, well, hang on a minute, wouldn't you like the main protagonist, or main villain, I should say, sorry, in the first movie that absolutely terrified Batman and brought him to his knees, and now he's taking you out in 5 minutes? That's quite embarrassing. Why? I agree with Burhan, which is, why are you here?
No,
there's no plot thread. There's no plot thread for you to even be here right now. This movie can perfectly exist without you.
That's exactly it. There was no purpose. He served no purpose. He wasn't even a MacGuffin. It was just, there was no point in him being there. It was kind of, it wasn't even exposition. He was just there. It's like, hi, I'm Hayden Christensen. Do you know what I mean?
Hi. Guess what? I was that bloke in the other movie. I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. Remember me?
I feel, and they didn't need to do it because they had a really strong franchise at this point.
Yeah.
I just felt that they did that to kind of say, like, hey, we're tying this to the previous movie.
Yeah, and it was also like, hey, look what we're doing for you. I'm going to give you an extra paycheck just for the point of it. And that's it. And it's like, you don't need to do that. You really don't need to do that.
I think, by the way, I would just like to say I'm very happy that you made money from this movie, because everyone's got to work and learn and live. Yeah,
but he's a credible actor. He doesn't need to do that,
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, which is, why are you here?
Yeah, it kind of killed any buzz that he had from the previous movie. It made his character look weak in comparison. That's the sad part, But yeah, Miguel, so what do you think of the Joker?
I thought it was great, and it really, especially in foresight and hindsight now, you gotta respect the fact that he really did the research, and he really enveloped himself in the character, which a lot of people say ended up unfortunately leading to his death. Heath Ledger obviously passing away right before the movie came out, which I think really
overdose of painkillers and stuff as well. Yeah, he won an Oscar for it as well. He's the only,
which goes back to how he immersed himself in the characters, because when he did that to himself, he was doing it to be another role. So
well, he was the only person to ever win an Oscar as well for a superhero movie.
Did he win the Oscar for that?
He did. Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, he did posthumously. He did win the Oscar.
He won it after his passing. because they
Can
kind
I
of
see the elephant in the room right now?
they re-released the movie just so it could go in the Oscar list.
Huh. Yeah, best supporting actor.
Yeah, a lot of people on the internet, and I kind of agree and disagree. I'm kind of on the cusp of it because I think his role deserved the Oscar, but they went, if he didn't pass, he probably would never have won it, and I kind of agree.
I agree because he deserves it,
Yeah.
But he probably wouldn't have been given it.
I don't think he won it. Honestly, I'm looking at. I'm trying to
He
find
did. He won it. He won.
He did posthumously won it. He did win it.
It was the best
It was
supporting
more
actor.
of an honorary. Do you know what I mean? It was probably not on the.
No, he won it. I remember.
He was given a special one. He was given a special.
Yeah, posthumously for Dark Knight.
Yeah, because they re-released the movie just so he could win that, just so he could get put in for that role. And he's the only actor, because Birdman doesn't count because it technically isn't a superhero movie.
It's not a superhero film.
No, it kind of parodies it in a sense. The whole movement.
It's not a superhero film. It's about. It's a drama about an actor. That film.
Yeah.
With a character in it, but it's not. It's not in the genre of a superhero film. It's not.
Yeah.
I would not call it that.
Yeah, and he won.
It's a comedy drama.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But he's very he was very. What's the word? His role in it would never have probably won that for that if they didn't. If he didn't have passed, and a lot of it, and my brother was talking to me about it. He was actually saying to me, "Do you think he immersed himself in the role too much that he couldn't get out of it?" And what people don't understand from an actor's perspective, and I think Anina will agree with me on this, when you engulf yourself in certain roles, they're very emotional because you give yourself to it. And he was going through a lot of personal problems,
which was why he went the way he did.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. He was going through a lot of personal issues as well at the same time. He couldn't sleep. He was he was going through the same thing that kind of most pro wrestlers used to in their olden days, where you used to have uppers and downers, and a lot of old school actors did the same thing. But he was, his fiance, I think he ended up breaking up with his other half, I think it was wife or fiance, who just had given birth to their little one, and his career was just beginning to kind of move to greater heights, and immersing himself in that kind of character with all his other emotional baggage and stuff, kind of there was a lot of issues, and having access to these kind of drugs, he had an overdose, and that was it, and it's a shame,
It is. It's a big shame because conversation, which is people. I had this conversation with someone at work the other day, which is people seem to think that prescription drugs are not as bad as legal drugs, and they're still drugs.
Yeah. How I feel about this whole, this sort of over emotion in a character, I think it is dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous to put yourself so much into a role. Because I've experienced it myself, but it is you do feel you can lose yourself in the character and just be this other character. Whereas I don't like the trend of sort of hailing people who do that, because tragic things can happen. I don't want people to idolize this sort of thing, like, they gave everything to their part. I would rather see people hailing people who are like, they did this, and then at the end of the day, they went home and they were themselves.
But it's very hard to break yourself out of a role, though.
It is very hard.
I think there's a phrase.
I think the ability to be able to drop something, to drop a character and then pick it up again, is a bigger, it's a bigger skill in a way, I think. It's harder, but you have to be able to drop it to remain sane.
Yeah, that's another thing. I agree with you on that.
And
you have to be able to drop it to remain sane. That's it. That's just, you have to be yourself in between things.
Mm-hmm. And we're not even factoring in the fact that the character he was researching, I mean, it's the Joker. People like to think that the Joker is just the character from, the Batman animated series and whatnot, but no. If you've ever researched the things he does in comic books, yeah, I can understand how somebody can get lost and warped by a character like that. I mean, this is a character who is just pure concentrated evil. I mean, Batman even said, I think he told one of the Justice League members, like, no, there's bad people, he's evil. Like, there is nothing redeemable about the character of the Joker. So I could see somebody who is maybe, I mean, that's the whole thing about the Joker is he has this thing about him where he can just affect you. He has a way with that, whether it be his charisma or just his over, as it were.
It's not just that though, Miguel, because I've been in kind of a similar situation. I played a serial rapist once. I had to lock myself in a room for 3 days. And a lot of it was because of the fact I had trouble getting over that character. The thoughts that were going through my head were like, I had some twisted thoughts. I always give myself 100% to any roles that I do. And when I do it, I kind of come out of it. I had to just like, I saw someone and the thoughts that were going through, I was just sitting there going, I can't think like this. I've got to go home. I was riding on the train. I was looking my head down, it was stuff that was mentally freaking me out. And as soon as I got in, I just shut myself away, did not come out of my room unless I needed to eat something, and just tried to get myself back and be sane. Watch some like happy movies, watch some stand-up comedy, just try to get out of the motions, because a character like that, like Twisted, you're gonna have to, the things that you've got to be thinking about, the subject matter that's going to touch, not a sane person would be doing what these people do. And when you cross that line, even when you're acting it out, it's very hard to come back from.
Yeah, you still get in touch with that thing on some level. And I had a similar experience, but mine was, I played a character where I was in love with the other character. And for a day or two afterwards, I was in love with their character. And that was very weird. I was going, I was in love with someone who's not real. Because I wasn't in love with the actor. I was in love with the character they played. Mm-hmm. So it took me a good 2 days to go, stop. Like you're crushing over someone. So you're constantly thinking about it and going like, I want to see them or text them. That was weird.
Yeah,
that was very weird to go there. I had to tell myself they're not real. They are literally not real.
Yeah,
well,
I know the other actor. I'm not, but it's not them.
Well,
get over it.
Speaking of getting swept into certain things, we've been talking a lot about Dark Knight. I mean, it's a fantastic movie, and anybody who hasn't seen it really should. And if you've even seen it, I mean, go ahead and see it again. I mean, one day I'm going to go rewatch that movie. It's going to be long enough where I'm going to be like, I haven't seen that movie in a while. I forgot what happened. Let me rewatch it. But, it's a phenomenal film. And so much so that when they did announce Dark Knight Rises in 2011, I did not go see it because I felt that I got so much out of Dark Knight. I did not think the sequel could live up to that. It was one of those things where I made a decision. I was like, I'm not going to ruin this feeling of how I felt with The Dark Knight by watching a sequel that just can't live up to it. And from what I've been told, because full disclosure, have not seen it, done the research on it, it falters in a sense that it's a classic example of what happens when you try to up the ante with a sequel. And from what I've heard, Dark Knight Rises does that. It feels, they tried to do so much with the film that from what I've heard, it feels very cluttered. It's very much an ensemble film. It really doesn't focus on Batman too much, actually, if at all. And it just wasn't as good as the Dark Knight. I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm just saying I don't need to see it. I've seen bits and pieces, mostly the Bane segments, which we'll get to in a bit. But let me throw it over to you guys. I'm going to throw it over to Anina, because I know, Burhan, you said you haven't seen it, but I'll throw you can go last. Anina, what'd you think of Dark Knight Rises?
After The Dark Knight, it was disappointing. It wasn't bad, not a bad film, but it was a disappointment. And then you tried to go into it with, an open mind, but it just did not live up to what the second one was. And one of the reasons was because they lost the Joker. It was going to be it was going to be Joker and Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And I myself could not wait to see how they did Harley Quinn. And I've seen promo shots of the girl they chose to be Harley Quinn, who looks very young and very innocent. So that could have brought it, and an even darker edge to that character. And as an actor, I feel horrific for that actress, because she had like the debut role of a lifetime coming up, and then that's it. Sorry, hon, you can't be in the film, and that's it.
Yeah, it's
gone.
a shame.
I feel gutted for her.
Yeah.
Absolutely gutted. I like Bane a lot. Bane, I really enjoyed Bane, but yeah, I there's a bit at the ending of this film that I cannot stand.
Yeah,
and I think
it seemed a lot forced in terms of the way that they ended, because I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen the abridged version, I think would be the word, and I hated Bane's voice.
See, I like that. I did like that. But
I didn't like the fact that he was talking like this most of the time. Yeah, sure. I felt he didn't seem like a far intelligent. He looked like a tactician, but he didn't seem like an intelligent character. It was more of the Bane that we know, but he still wasn't that Bane. And I understand Nolan states that the reason he did that because he wanted a more true to life Bane. He wanted someone who was trained by Ra's al Ghul, who they understood. He was kind of the protector, and I liked the story that they tried to do with Talia. I felt her reveal was a bit shitty, because she was just shoehorned in. She was another like love interest, and then suddenly he's like, "Ha! I turned on you." It's like, okay.
I remember seeing the love scene, and I'm like, "What?" They just tagged crowbarred in a love scene, and then
she's like, "I'm buying you out. I'm buying out your company to save you, Bruce. Oh, by the way, do you want to have sex?" And I was like,
"Yeah, that was really like what."
Yeah,
and it wasn't. If they were gonna, I would have wanted maybe more of a build up to that, but again, because they had so much going on, they kind of went, let's get to it. But
they also shoehorned Bane in as they kind of like, he was in there, but then she overshadowed him as the main villain, but then they dispatched of her quickly, and it was just like, okay, what the hell's going on? Do you know what I mean? It was like,
what
he's
I
dead.
did like about Bane is that he was honestly, he was
psychotic.
This feeling that he can overpower Batman, which I've never seen in a Batman film before. Physically, he can overpower him, and that was nice to see, because it gave the fight scenes an actual dread in a way that you rarely see in action films, because you're like, well, obviously the good guy's going to win.
It made him more of an underdog, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made him like, actually now, and because he did overpower him and physically overpower him, that was a nice thing I really enjoyed seeing.
But it was also,
Batman is not invincible for once.
But they also did this thing where this became more of a Batman movie. This was more about Batman than Bruce Wayne. It was like a struggle between trying to identify himself, and he didn't want to be Batman anymore. The whole to make him an underdog, they kind of gave him this knee problem that he lost like all the cartilage in his knee or some shit. That annoyed me because it made no sense. There was no reason behind it. They didn't even give any expedition for it. It was just like, oh, my knees are fucked. They didn't add to the story from the last movie. They kind of passed it by. They went, yeah, this is what happened last time, but it's been so many years, I'm older now, blah blah blah. And it kind of, it foreshadowed. It did a lot of foreshadowing, and that's one of the things that I hated about this movie. I felt it was rushed. I felt it was put together very quickly. I felt Nolan's heart wasn't in it. You could tell his heart wasn't in it. He didn't want to do it. A lot of it, I think, is because the second movie was so good. This is the time where I felt another... It's like what they did with Favreau after Iron Man 2. I felt Nolan should have stopped. Nolan should have left, and a new director should have taken his place. Or he should have stayed on as producer and led and kind of held hand to the next guy. So they can keep the world intact, but bring something new to it. I think Bale didn't really want to be there. He gave as much as he wanted to give to the role. But a lot of it was kind of them saying goodbye to it. They knew what the conclusion was going to be. They knew they weren't going to be there. Bane was good, but Bane wasn't great. And the problem is, I felt that the villain needed to be a lot more powerful. The Joker took away...
I think Bane was the best thing about this film.
Well,
it made it enjoyable to watch.
Well, the problem I found was the whole "I am freeing you from yourselves" bit, and then everyone's getting like freaking... He's leaving everyone to kill each other, which makes no fucking sense. You know, his motives weren't sound. The character was flawed in certain ways. I felt they took an intelligent character and a lead character at that, and they turned him into a lackey at the end. His role was kind of downplayed. You know, he was playing secondary to Talia.
He was still... I don't think he was lackey. He kind of found out they were, in cahoots.
Well, they weren't really in cahoots. He was like, I love you, you're my lovely. And she was like, oh, by the way, I fucked Bruce. Just so you know.
Yeah.
While Bruce is lying there stabbed in the chest with a knife. And it just seemed like a parody of itself in a sense. My problem was I didn't believe it because Nolan painted this picture. It's like when your favorite artist paints the Mona Lisa and then they paint soup. That's the issue with me on this. I didn't believe what Nolan was trying to do because I felt that he lost faith in what he was trying to do. I think this was more a studio movie. It was a good movie. It was a good movie, but it was more a studio movie in comparison to the other two, which seemed like Nolan was in love with the character. He was in love with the movies and he was in love with the world that he was making. The first one was him establishing that world. The second movie was him kind of trying to bring more layers to it, and show you the underseed, the seediness of what Gotham was. And then the third movie was just like, we're just going to put all this chaos in there just for the point of it. Without, it just seemed
everyone will always think about the film that could have been.
Yeah. And that's the problem as well.
That's sad.
It's the great thing about this movie is, it sounds terrible.
Yeah,
say this, but I'm going to
go on.
The greatest thing about this movie is if you buy it on Blu-ray, you get an hour-and-a-half long documentary about every single Batmobile.
But that's the thing.
The greatest thing about this movie.
The process. That's another thing that I found. It's like Nolan was doing tricks that he was already doing. I found Inception probably
bored. I agree with you, Ben. I feel he felt bored.
Yeah. It's like he did it because he was contractually obligated to do it. He didn't do it because... Yeah, he didn't do it because he felt that the story needed a definitive ending. And I think it was time for him to kind of give up on it from the second movie. But it's a shame, So what do you... I don't know. I just don't feel that it was a proper ending to it.
I especially hate the whole fucking setting up a Robin movie at the end. That really, you know what? In its defense, I did really like the fact that Bruce Wayne got some kind of reward for being Bruce Wayne.
No, I hated that bit.
I did too.
I hated it.
I just liked it because fucking.
I'm sorry,
Michael
if you're that close to a bomb, you're dead. Especially if you've built up realism, you're dead.
No, I'm talking about after that.
You know what? They did a kind of.
He should have died.
They did a kind of a Frank Miller. They took a page from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, when he basically has like kind of that whole fake heart attack thing.
But I didn't buy it.
I didn't either. I didn't buy it. I felt like I did like the fact they went, Lucius, did you program this? He was like, no. And then they found out that Batman did it, but you already knew that he was kind of intelligent. Did that?
Actually, there's more than two things. I shouldn't shut my mouth down. It's not based upon the previous two movies. It's not a Batman movie.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's more a Jason Gordon-Levitt movie. The character you followed was...
You actually clock up the time that Batman is on screen in this movie. It's about 15 minutes.
out of a 3-hour film.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, and don't get me wrong, I love it when he's on, on the screen. I really enjoy the Bane fight where he loses.
Yeah, it's a great fight.
Going back to the start though, which is what Bohan mentioned, which is sorry North America, you have no free healthcare. But like, hey, it's alright, I've just invented an elastic band I can stick on my knee and it fixes 15 years of no cartilage and being fucked up.
Yeah.
How does that even work? That's bollocks. But I don't know. My main disappointment with this movie is the fact that it's a Batman movie, and based on the previous 2 movies, we get to see fuck all Batman. And when we do, he's in shiny toys like that fucking stupid helicopter thing. No, you're Batman. You should be on the street policing it and throwing down and slapping bitches. Bitches being evil men, not Boone. But no, now you've got an Apache helicopter apparently. Where the fuck did that come from? And if I can turn into comic book idiot form, one of the things that really annoyed me about this movie, based on comic books, is so Bane beat the shit out of you, and then in the second fight, that's when you realise you should punch his mask off. Really? Because if I'm not a superhero, but the first thing I would have done is my brain would have gone, you got a mask. Means you can't breathe in real world. I'm taking that off your face. It was. There's good moments in this movie. Don't get me wrong. That really, and from a cinematography point of view, like when the American football ground collapses, brilliant. But apart from that, it feels like, I agree with you, Brian. It feels like the director's just, I can't be asked. I'm just going to stick this scene in here that cost $250 million, and I'll stick this scene in here. Then Batman will fight. Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. It didn't seem like any fucks were given with the movie, and it's a shame because there was a chance to do something amazing and give Batman that proper goodbye.
Well, the whole premise of the movie apparently was to make the people stand up and rally in it, which is everyone is a vigilante and should stand up for the small person. And when you watch the movie, it's like, oh, you won, did you? I've got no love interest in you. Sorry, I'm not gay. There's nothing wrong with that, but like, I've got no love interest in you whatsoever. There was no heart and soul in that. It's just like, we should rally up and be Gotham and stop evil forces. That's the gift you left to the city.
Yeah, and that's,
and it's just,
yeah. And Catwoman as well. I have to go on Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. That was a wasted.
I was just about to ask you guys. Yeah,
that was a wasted opportunity. I felt that she had some mannerisms of Selena Kyle. I just don't think she played the character well, and I think her costume was shit.
I honestly feel as Catwoman, she was crap, and she felt more like Catherine Zeta-Jones in Entrapment.
She was no Michelle Pfeiffer. That's
yeah,
me.
She was. She wasn't bad, but she wasn't great. She was a bit meh for me, which that's not a reaction you want from an audience. It's meh.
I want an English Batman that goes into the room when she's like fuddling through his safe and just goes, "Are you trying to nick my shit, love?"
Well, that's Christian Bale for you. I've been funny. Why don't you fucking understand? But yeah, the whole thing behind it, I felt the movie, it was a letdown in comparison to the second movie, but it was head and shoulders probably above Batman Forever.
Yeah, but that's not.
Yeah, but dude, I could take a deuce in a fucking urinal and it would be.
No, but do you know what I mean? Batman.
It's no feat to be above that film.
Well, the worst Nolan movie is probably better than the best. What's that dude's name?
Schumacher
movie.
He's not Hold on. I'm gonna say this. He's not a bad director.
Miguel, in
like,
accordance to Batman, not his other stuff.
Yeah. Okay, in terms of Batman, but like I said, as we said before, Batman and Robin was not his fault. But if you look at stuff like 8mm and
of course, I've
Time to
seen.
Kill.
That's one of my favorite movies. 8mm as well. I don't know how the fuck Cage played that role. Because I looked at that and I was like,
by the way.
I watched that movie and I looked at it and I was thought, fuck me, if I was playing his role, I would be locked in a room for like a week after watching that shit. You've had some police officers who work in the frickin' pedophile division who have to go walk through footage and people worry about their fucking sanity.
For English, you can say pedophile.
Yeah.
But anyway, in terms of what it was a letdown in comparison to The Dark Knight. You know,
exactly, because The Dark Knight was a Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, this movie is a lot of dead air with Batman popping up every now and then to say, "Hi, I'm Batman. Here's a fight scene."
And it also the narrative as well, where they did that whole thing with the leg. If they left that fucking knee bullshit out and had it where he was like. He was a character that they needed to break down. Instead, they introduced him in the movie broken, and that's not how you want to see Batman. You don't want to see him broken. When you see him fight Bane, he's strong, and then Bane breaks him. That's what you want to see. But this, you didn't see that. He was weak.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't really had a chance to say my thoughts on the movie in general from what I've seen of it, but from what I've seen of it, yeah, it goes back to what I said. It was that tipping point to where Dark Knight got to the point to where the first one at least, the first Dark Knight got to the edge of a movie can go so far before it goes too far, and to me, Dark Knight got just as far with it that was just going to go off the cliff, and to me, it sounds like it did. It was too big. It had too many characters, too many plot elements, to where its main character just doesn't have a presence. And this was something that I mentioned about Batman Returns that a lot of people talk about, how that movie kind of had that same element. But to me, I think Dark Knight Rises went a little bit further with that. And in terms of the villains, I did not buy Anne Hathaway as Catwoman at all. I just think that with the moment I saw that character, I was like, this character is not going to have any real presence in the film. She's just basically going to be there because it's Catwoman, and people will gravitate to it. I didn't even like her costume. I thought it was just very.
It was shite.
Yeah, it was.
I like the flippy ear things. I did like those. Those were cool. That was about it.
It was like a headband, though. I didn't like it because she didn't seem authentic. And that's the problem. It's like in terms, Gary Oldman, again, as Commissioner Gordon, he had a great story in this.
He did. Yeah. That's the defining fact of the movie that I love. Yeah. Was his story.
The movie itself, though, it was actually the highest grossing one out of the Batman franchise because it made over $1 billion.
Really? Mm-hmm. This beat Dark Knight?
But people would have watched Dark Knight on DVD and gotten into it after the thing came out because of all of the hype. So I'm not surprised this one made more.
It was riding the hype train of how good Dark Knight was. It doesn't shock me. It wasn't a huge jump though. It was like maybe a couple $100 million that it made over Dark Knight over the first one.
What was the budget?
$230 million. $230 million. It made it basically the budget was only increased by like $50 million in comparison to the second movie, but I felt that the second movie was layered properly. It was the way that it was produced was a lot better. The way it was directed, the way that it was acted was a lot better. This one was kind of an all kind of effects movie. It had all kind of the nice little effects bits in it. It won a few awards as well, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it was the tipping point, and it really, it's interesting because I'm kind of glad that they're rebooting the character because I didn't know where else they could go with the character, especially with the way they ended it. It almost seemed like they were setting up for maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character to take over as either the new Robin or maybe the new Batman.
That's exactly what I was going to say, which is, did this movie end in the sense to create a new franchise and we get Robin, because that's not, that's not sellable.
I think they were trying to build up Nightwing. I think Levitt's character was supposed to be Dick Grayson in a sense. They gave him that whole like, "What's your last name?" Well, you should use Robin. It's a good name. And I was like, "Oh God, that's terrible." But this movie, a lot of it, in to use a wrestling term, it was made to make Jason Gordon-Levitt look strong. In terms of, and he's a good actor. He's a really good actor. He was one of the best parts of Inception. In terms of standouts.
He's really strong in this movie.
Yeah, and his character really is strong in this movie, because his character's kind of the journey you follow is his character trying to figure out. He's like, well, the law is there to protect the people, and he's like, sometimes the law can't help those who can't be helped, and he's watching the city get destroyed around him to the point where he eventually just gives up his badge, because even the best the cops, there's a bit where the cops are told, if you do anything, we're going to kill people. Do you know what I mean? And,
well, here's a question to the round table, which is, would you like to see a Nightwing movie or Robin movie after this in the same franchise?
No. I think they should have.
No.
The way that the fact that they've closed the book on it is probably the best way they could have done. Nolan comes out of it looking great, because he made the movie grossed over $1 billion. Again, a lot of that I think is to do with the fact that it was the final film. If it wasn't the final film, I don't think it would have grossed that much.
Yeah.
But in terms of,
you mean it was a victim of its own success, which is
it's just there was nowhere else they could go with it. Like after the second movie, there was nowhere else they could go. And I know he enjoyed working with Levitt and Hardy from Inception, so he was scrambling to find roles for them. Hardy's Bane character has no. It's like they try and give him backstory, but he has no backstory.
And to be perfectly honest, I didn't buy Tom Hardy in that role at all. I
didn't either. I didn't.
I disagree. I think he was really good.
He's more than.
I have a question though, real quick. Was he the one voicing the character?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh wow, then that I really didn't. I thought that was just like, let's get Tom Hardy for his body and then get somebody else to voice it, and then I could be like, okay, so it wasn't Tom Hardy doing the voice, but if it was him, oh boy, yeah, I don't.
Dude, it was even worse. They had to redub it, if you remember, because it was too. He was like with it,
yeah,
and they're like what?
He did not have the menace that I think he needed to convey for that character, because they tried to do the whole larger than life character like they did with the Joker, but in the Joker's case, you bought it because the character was menacing and manipulative. You can tell. In the case of Bane, it's hard for me to take a character seriously when he sounds like he's doing a muffled Sean Connery impression. Like, it just did not work for me.
Thank you, Miguel. I just spat beer on my computer.
It didn't work for me. He had no menace to him that
I
you would
agree.
expect from a character like that.
He was lackluster in comparison to the Joker. The thing is, and I've said this about Bane previously, he's intelligent. He broke Batman's mind, and then he broke his spirit. This Bane broke his. This Bane was there to break his back. That was it. To do that iconic "I'm going to break your back" bullshit. He didn't seem as intelligent as Bane should have been. He was more of like, I'm a good soldier. You're going to die because you're going to die for our cause. And he had that whole kind of Sean Connery thing going on. And, Sean Connery as a villain, everyone has to just watch the Avengers to find out what that was about. And I don't mean Earth's Mightiest Heroes. But he's... he's just... He was underwhelming in comparison to the Joker, in comparison to Two-Face. He didn't seem as threatening. Was he like a kind of an upgrade from the Bane that we saw previously? Yes. He's Absolutely. A better movie carnation of Bane. Was he a great leading bad guy? No.
Was he a good follow-up to the Joker of the Dark Knight?
No, he didn't.
He was a kind of a weak follow-up for me.
I was fine with the voice, because they went with the thing of he has this thing on his face which distorts his voice. I was absolutely fine with taking that on board as a reality. But I think he did have a lot of gravitas. I will disagree with all three of you. I thought he was a good villain. In differently to the Joker because
physically,
so basically you're saying apples and oranges.
He has presence.
Physically, he
give him
looked
that, but
he looked physically
yeah.
huge. He looked physically huge. He looked physically kind of, oh my god, he's like, you know, he looks demented. But that voice kind of went, yeah, mate, I'm not taking you seriously. Because it's like me putting on a Bane costume, pumping myself up full of steroids and going, do you take me seriously now? No? Maybe I should talk like
bought
this
it, but there were so many other things about the film that I didn't buy. I didn't buy Catwoman. I didn't buy the ending.
That was kind of bait and switch crap,
I didn't mind the Nightwing thing. Did not mind that. It was the whole.
You like the ending?
Oh, we're in Paris.
Whoa, Anina. You didn't. You know, you didn't dislike the whole fucking handing the torch to.
I did that. I didn't mind. What I minded was like, and now we're in Paris. That made me.
Can I also say one thing about?
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. Can I say one thing about Catwoman real quick? And one of the problems that I had with it, because I was thinking about this yesterday, in preparation for the show. My biggest problem with Catwoman and the fact that they went with Anne Hathaway was Catwoman was always portrayed as somebody that was on the same level, mature-wise, as Batman. Somebody that could go toe-to-toe with him. Maybe not so much in intelligence, but in charisma. Like, you never felt like, you know, Batman never felt like he could overpower Catwoman, you know, and if it did, it was because Catwoman allowed it.
Yeah, she could talk her way out of a corner.
Yeah, it was basically, you know, they felt like they could basically dominate each other. You know, it never felt like one was weaker than the other because she just had that gravitas to her. I never ever felt that Anne Hathaway ever had that gravitas. Coming off of Disney movies like Ella Enchanted and doing this, that's why I loved Michelle Pfeiffer, was because she did have that kind of temptress level of domination, that gravitas to her that you bought with Batman.
She threw herself into character because if you know, look at Batman Returns, the whole scene where she transcends into Catwoman and she's drinking milk and, you know, wiping her face and stuff, you just look at it and think, oh my god, you are Selena Carr. In this movie, you're like, you just think, all right, you're pretty fucking nifty and you're a thief, but it doesn't feel like Batman. It feels like a heist movie, if that makes sense, because you're just good at what you're doing. Whereas Catwoman should be like feisty and torn, and, you know, there should be infliction within her soul.
You know what the biggest problem with her was as well, and
Elephant in the room, Dave.
Yeah, elephant in the room, Dave.
Oh, hang on, sorry.
You know, the worst part as well was the fact that they just, how can I say it? She's the one who dispatches with Bane. And I've had this problem since the first Expendables movie, and I talked about this when we talked about that franchise. If a lead villain takes out the hero, there's got to be payback. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get payback. She kills Bane.
Yeah, I kind of see how that would annoy people. I know, for instance, that kind of brings back to something Brad Jones once said in one of his reviews, where he's like, he hates when a villain is just arrested at the end of a movie, unless it's made to symbolize something. He feels that if you're a bad enough villain, you know, you should pay for what you've done. And I could see that in this sense, where it feels like a cop-out, the fact that they had her be the one to kill Bane, even if it was just something that really was just a quick death that really should not have meant much. But,
she wanted. I could see it as something that she wanted done. I could see that she's, because they had, like, he doesn't. The funny thing about it, he doesn't dispatch with the villains. In this, he has that big moment at the end where he's like, oh no, the bomb's going to explode, so I'm going to fly this ship over and you know, and let it explode in the ocean. It's one of those things where it pissed me off because I sat there and went, okay, why would what? And then she just betrays Bane out from the get-go. She was kind of pro on his side, and then suddenly she turns on him, and that sudden, like, it's kind of like a wrestling thing, you know, when someone's like a heel, they've been a heel for the time, then they suddenly just side with the face. You're like, what the fuck? You just punched that guy's dad in the face. Why are you doing that? And that's with her. It's like you fucked with this guy so much, and then suddenly now you're with him. It makes no sense.
I'll say this about Catwoman, and then we're kind of running a little bit late, unless there's anything important. But I will say this: if there's one actress I think that could have played the role like maybe 5 or 6 years ago from when they did it, if they'd have casted her. And I hate saying this because I know back in that time she was a very popular actress and whatnot. And I'm not casting her for the obvious reasons, but I would have probably put Angelina Jolie, like an early 2000s Angelina Jolie in that role.
That's so funny. I said that the same thing to my boyfriend after we saw this film. He was like, "Who could have played it?" Because I said, "Oh, they should have cast an unknown," and then we started talking who out of A-list would play it, and I thought Angelina Jolie
because she has the gravitas and the charisma that warrants a character like that. You can see her.
She has those feline tones.
Yeah,
and she's got this hardness, but this sexiness.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is,
plus obviously seeing her wear the suit wouldn't have been too bad, especially if it was the most recent iteration of Catwoman that they have in the games. If you've ever played Arkham.
The one that doesn't zip up properly.
Yeah, the unzippable one is basically.
There's another person I would say that I would put in there as well. I'm just trying to figure out what she's currently starring in a movie with Will Smith.
The movie Focus.
Focus, yeah. Margot, what's her name? Margot Robbie. She kind of reminds me of the like sister in My Name Is Earl, the ex-wife of My Name Is Earl. She was in the Wolf of Wall Street,
she's playing Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah. She's very much like she's got that sex appeal to her, but you can tell she can act as well at the same time. She was in.
She beat Will Smith on Star on a reasonably priced car run the Top Gear test track.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I know, I can't mention it again because you can see it in his face. He's so distraught, and he's like, "Yay, well done for beating me!" And like, you just know he's a chauvinistic pig, and he's thinking, "You're a woman. That's not fair."
But she's, I would say, Margot Robbie. To me, I think she would have been perfect for that role because she's sexy and she looks like she could act with it. She wasn't, because the thing is, I will say this, in terms of The Wolf of Wall Street, she wasn't tits and ass in that movie, even though they kind of tried to make her out like that. She wasn't. She had character development.
Wasn't.
Yeah, she had character development. She was very intelligent.
She was a superficial person, but you believe that superficial person.
Yeah, so, and she kind of held her own.
It wasn't one-dimensional because it was a believable character.
Well, she held her own with DiCaprio, who is very polarizing in his own right, and made that film about the ensemble. Is that a good
movie, by the way?
Very good movie.
Fantastic film.
A very, very good movie. If I was you, I would watch it.
Yes. As someone on a film podcast, you should see it immediately.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, Dave, if you've got Netflix.
Yeah.
If not, I'll talk to you after. But the whole thing about her, I think she would have played a very well-rounded Catwoman, and I think she's someone that probably would have done her homework. In my opinion, I think Hathaway didn't do her homework. I think Anne Hathaway was just like, I'm a big star now, let's just do this. Get it out of the way because it's a big role for me. And I think they took a lot of liberties with her character because of the fact she was a big star on the project. I don't think she knew what she was doing, and it kind of brings us back to that full circle of Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. It was a big star taking on a role they knew nothing about, rather than an actor actually researching the role that they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was like, oh look, Jack Nicholson did that, I'll just do what Jack Nicholson did. And Hathaway's just like, oh, I just need to play sexy and I'm a thief, I'll just do that. There was nothing there. And that's a shame. And she probably in the movie, she was the biggest letdown in the entire movie.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, Dark Knight, we're not. It's not a bad movie. If you like Dark Knight Rises, I mean, if you like it, fine. It's not a bad movie. I don't think it was nearly as good of a sequel that it needed to be in terms of compared to Dark Knight, but that's neither here nor there because now with the upcoming reboot with Ben Affleck in the role, it's going to be a completely new franchise of sorts. His movie's not even coming out, I think, until 2019. I think he's going to be one of the last few that gets his own movie. I actually like the fact that they're going
to. Wait, hang on. How old would he be when he makes that movie?
Affleck?
Yeah.
He'll at least be like. Yeah, he might be a bit older. He might be on the middle side of 40.
I'm just gonna say, I'm pretty sure he's now.
Yeah.
What was that?
He's in his 40s now, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's going to be old by the time it happens, but at the same time, from what I'm hearing, that's the vibe they're going to be going with his Batman. He's been talking about how they're really taking a lot of leeway from the original Dark Knight comic book, the Dark Knight Returns that Frank Miller did. Yeah. So I'm fine with that. You've talked about somebody who's going to do his homework and who's going to put a lot of his best foot forward into it. I was a little bit weary of him being cast in the role. I'm totally for it now. I think he really... I've heard Kevin Smith talk about what he's doing for the role, and it sounds like he's really gonna give it his A game. And you know what? Affleck is not a bad actor. When he has his A game on, you know, be it Argo or Gone Girl, he really can...
Argo's an amazing movie.
I still haven't seen Gone Girl yet. I've got to watch that.
Gone Girl's good, but she steals the show.
Rosamund Pike.
Yeah, she steals the show.
But yeah, there's not much really I can say about it, mostly because we've been talking for 3 hours and my head hurts a bit. So let's throw it over to the plugs. Burhan, where can we find you?
If you want to basically check out, I'm going to be rebooting. Well, I'm going to be doing season 3 of Movie File, which is going to be more concurrent this year. I'm going to try and do one a week. On youtube.com/The Nerd Genius, and along with all the other podcasts here, you can find us on nerdgenius.com. NERDGENIOUS, so make sure that you check that out. I'm going to be releasing a cast list for 9 other cast members that we need to cast for the new Silent Hill TV pilot that we're basically shopping to Konami. Hopefully, if we can get there, I'm going to be raising the funds from 2 different perspectives. One, I'm going to be going door to door to raise some of it. 2, product placement, and also a third one basically via raising money via the internet, of course, using Indiegogo. The reason I'm doing this, we need to raise 150k so that I can take the project to Vancouver, British Columbia, get the project up there and basically shoot it. We're going to be paying actors' pays, we're going to be paying a team of people to be working on set. I'm going to be directing it because I'm awesome. So make sure that we do that as well. The script writers include our very own Miguel Leon, myself, Chris Dace. So it's a great thing. I'm going to be releasing that. We've already cast Harry Mason. We cast Alessa, who's our newest cast member at the moment. Our very own Jamie Stiles won the role. Not because she's my friend or because she's sleeping with the director, because it'd be very hard to do because I live in the United Kingdom. She won it over because of the fact that she brought a lot to the character, and someone that she auditioned for a role and also managed to prove to me that she understood it, which is a big thing. I think for any actor who goes to play this,
shots are awesome.
Yes, and what I'm looking for are actors who can play their respective roles. So if you want to basically go for this, all you got to do is email me at michaelburhan@enigma, enigmar.co.uk. You can join me for I Got Gameplay this Saturday. It's going to be a pre-tape episode with Missy Outbreak, who's going to be on there. She's going to be talking about her favourite games and such. It's got myself and Anina basically doing that episode. It's a pretty good episode, wasn't it, Anina? Very good episode.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was very enjoyable.
For once recorded during daylight hours as well.
Yes, it was. And we're doing the pre-tape. We're going to be doing the week after. We've got Guy Seehey on the show, the voice of James Sunderland. If you are a fan of Silent Hill and you love everything about it, you join us for that show. If you do not, you're going to be pissing yourself. It's going to be a great show. Direct your questions if you go to facebook.com/igotgameplay or facebook.com/Michael Burhan, or find me on Twitter @Michael Burhan to find out more and to ask and forward any of your questions, or you can leave a comment underneath this video as well. I check everything, so I'll make sure I comprise all the comments together and I will direct their questions at Guy as well. And apart from that, just keep an eye out for another Rather British review this week. We're going to be WWE 2K15 next week. I'm going to be doing one on Dragon Age Inquisition, so make sure you check that out. We're going to be leading on for... I'm going to be trying to churn as many of these out as well as doing my other stuff at the same time. I'm going to be a very busy bee, so I need your support. And if you want to support myself and all the other hosts, go to patreon.com/nerdgenius and donate as little as you can to help get us moving in the right direction.
All right, Dave Wade, where can we find you?
You can find me where people pick the wings off dead fairies.
Neverland?
Yeah, sorry, it's my new thing.
I knew he was Peter Pan. I knew it.
No, you can find me at Longboys Post 975 if you like your retro video games, if you like your weird vlog, your waffles. Currently, my current vlog is what are your top 5 favourite kids' TV shows from your childhood? So, you know.
And also, just want to give a shout out to Scott Bailey, aka the Console Snob. He was in the comments section, giving us a great big hi ho, and he listened into the rest of the show as well. So, thank you, Console Snob, for joining us.
Follow us on Twitter.
Of course. And you can also check us back. We're going to be moving back to the Retro Island Network soon. We're just sorting out these issues with Warner Brothers.
Because they're
Music Group.
wankers.
And so we're going to be sorting that out. Make sure that you support the show, support everybody on it as well, and thank you everyone for listening.
And also tune into Burhan and the Boy
tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about loads of stuff, including why the police are fucking stupid.
Well, wait a minute. I thought we had
Miguel, I thought we were going to talk about what your TV shows that had bad endings.
Yeah, TV show finales. Because I was going to try to see if I could make a guest spot on there.
Yeah,
I don't know how
welcome
late
to.
I'm going to be able to get out, but
How late are you? Because if I'm nocturnal.
I get out at 9:30 from my job PM. So by the time I get home, it'll probably be just 10. So I'll probably be at the home.
What's that in UK time?
That's 3 a.m.
Alright, I'll tell you what, right? Here's my plan for today. Hey, people out there in YouTube land listening, a little insight to Dave's world. If that's true, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go downstairs, have a pizza, go back upstairs, go to bed, and get up at 1 a.m. tomorrow. So.
Okay. Is there anything else? You plugged your channel, right?
Oh yeah, Longboys Post. Unicorns don't go over the line shit.
Yeah, Longboys Post 1975. He does some great videos. He does some great Let's Plays as well. I want to also give a shout out to Xander Scullion. Check him out on YouTube. He's very similar to the Happy Console Gamer, but with his own spin on it.
Don't shout him out, because he will impregnate many women with his sexy voice.
Follow us on Twitter, Xander. Speaking of Twitter, Anina Kasky, where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Facebook. It's Anina Kasky, ANNINAKASKI, and a YouTube channel will become at some point.
Well, there's one thing I think we could.
That didn't make sense. That sentence.
There's
but
one idea I'm actually going to put forward to you in a little while. We'll talk after the show.
Ooh, okay. But yeah, I will birth a YouTube channel at some point.
That's going to be painful. Because that's a very
really creepy.
Yeah.
That sounds like a reality TV thing. Woman births internet.
I will give form to the
that could be my thing. How I'm famous.
Yeah, woman births internet.
And speaking of YouTube, keep an eye out, folks, because I am slowly but surely working my way to getting the Untitled Movie Show YouTube page up and running. I'll be trying to upload as many of the BTR episodes as I can, some of our older episodes. Some of them may take a little bit longer due to having to tweak some of the licensed music out due to copyright issues, because I don't want to get too many shots on my... on my YouTube page. So I'm going to be slowly but surely working on that. For now, you can find us on Twitter, twitter.com/unmovieshow. We'll be posting the links to episodes up on there from the YouTube section. Keep following us on YouTube, guys. We're being done on youtube.com/thenerdgenius, but we'll be hopefully moving back to the Retro Unlim network hopefully soon
all
enough.
Our back catalogue of episodes that are on this are going to be removed from here and moved onto the Retro Unlim network YouTube channel soon. I just need to get my internet back up.
and keep an ear open. I'm going to talk to the fellas after the show, but there's something I'm looking into that may we may be making another sort of return. So let's just leave it at that. I'm going to mention it. No. Don't hint at it.
Soundbite ever.
Yeah, don't hint at it because I gotta bring Burhan into the fold on this. But keep an ear open for that. Twitter.com/unmovieshow. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/theinnergenius until we get to the Retro Unlim Network. Then it's youtube.com/unlimradio.
Yes, it is.
Is that the one?
YouTube.com/unlimradio for all our back catalogue of shows. If you click on podcasts on nerdgenius.com, you'll be able to find the show that way because they're all in a playlist anyway. So you can check out the channel via that way.
There, guys.
And make sure you subscribe to Unlim Radio and also Twitter, Unlim Radio as well. And also Twitter, A Movie Show.
Yes, definitely, guys. Follow us on there. It's going to help out. And once I get the show up, you can subscribe to the Untitled Movie Show YouTube page because link me so I can stick it.
Yeah, I'll add it on the Retro Unlim Network as well, Bob.
It's a long link, which is why I need to work on it because I need 500 subscribers in order to get a custom link. So it's I'm gonna have to get one of those bit links to shorten it so you don't take up too much space. But I'm working towards that, guys. For myself. For Michael Burhan, for Lawn Boys host Dave Wade, and for Anina Kasky, this has been the Untitled Movie Show. Take us out, Jay.
Did it!
Come on.
I know. It's me and the freaking. Okay, say it again. Say it again. He's just tuned the piano.
Yes. For myself, for Michael Burhan, for Dave Wade, and for Nina Kasky, this has been the Untitled Movie Show. Take us out, Jay.
Celebrity voices are impersonated. No celebrities were harmed in filming of this episode.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, zitface.
Please, Ben Affleck, please.
My outro, Burhan.
Don't screw it up, Ben Affleck. Just don't screw it